Hey folks, Randy Newberg here, and we are recording another version of Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio from beautiful Flagstaff, Arizona. I am sitting here with two guys who saved my butt in the last week. We just got done hunting a wilderness backpack hunt. What's today, guys? Monday?
Monday. It's a holiday.
We went in, when did we hike in? Wednesday?
Yep.
So it took us a couple days to drive down here with our trailer full of gear. Marcus and I drove from Bozeman to Flagstaff. Ty, he came from Missoula via airplane and shuttle bus. How does a town the size of Flagstaff have such crappy air service?
I have no idea. You would think with a college they'd have something coming in and out of here.
You would think so. Yeah. I don't know. What does the NAU lumberjack team do? Drive to Vegas and catch a flight out of there? Or
I'm
what's
guessing. I'm guessing they don't have their own plane.
Maybe. But to the credit, it's been a beautiful place to be here, at least up where we were hunting. We hunted up over 10,000 feet and kind of had the place to ourselves until Sunday.
Yeah.
But even up high, we didn't have many people. Down low, it was a steady stream of people once we started packing out. Like a steady stream. Anyhow, folks, we're going to talk about elk hunting. We're going to talk about backpacking, wilderness. Ty had a Q&A session before we left yesterday that I think is very important that we cover since the question gets asked in private so often. But before we do that, we want to thank Leupold for being the title sponsor of Hunt Talk Radio. And we drag a lot of Leupold products up the mountain. Binos, rangefinders, rifle scopes. Too bad Leupold doesn't make camera lenses.
Yeah.
Marcus, he looked like he just robbed a camera store or something. If you picked up Marcus's pack, Marcus Hockett, our production guy, is here on the podcast, and so is Ty Stubblefield from Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Ty, what did you tell me your real title was? Chapter coordinator?
Yeah, I'm the chapter coordinator, and at
Sherpa, cameraman.
Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none,
agitator,
instigator.
Yeah, there we go. So that's who else is on the podcast with me, but. If you picked up Marcus's pack, you would swear he was carrying lead batteries. That's all that's in his pack, you would think.
Well, so when we hiked out, Randy, like I had a heavy load, I had my camp, and then I had a hindquarter, boned out hindquarter, and a camera.
Now you just told people that we killed an elk.
Oh, shoot.
It could have been someone else's elk.
I didn't say it was yours.
Okay. All right. Anyhow, continue. Sorry, continue.
So I had a heavy pack. Let's just put it that way. Had camera gear and batteries and everything. And somewhere among 90 to 100 pound mark, right? Yeah. And we came off that super steep hill, and I'm like, this is heavy. I mean, I've carried heavier, but I'm getting old.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm getting off here. Kind of like we were waiting for the critters when we were coming down, right? So I kind of left. I just wanted to get off that steep hill because my knees were killing me.
Yeah.
So I get down there, and we get to the pickup, and I pick up my pack with the camera off of it, and it was. Marcus is saying 75. I'm saying 85. But so I pick his up, and it weighed just as much as mine did without the camera on it.
Yeah.
It was of course, we always went to him when we needed something too.
Right. Yeah. Marcus, you got anything in your toolbox? Marcus is like the Snap-on America guy up there on the mountain. Ty needed to fix a tripod. Marcus whips out a full set of Allen wrenches, a crescent wrench.
The Gerber multi-tool.
Yeah. Did you have a channel lock or anything with you too?
No. I was just prepared. And I wanted to see if I could do it because we have all that new fancy camera equipment.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see if it was possible to carry it all and camp. And it was possible.
It was possible, but...
It's heavy, but you can do it.
Yeah, you probably lost 12 pounds on this week. You cannot eat enough calories to keep up with the work you are doing when you're carrying that much junk everywhere we go.
One mountain house a day will do it.
Marcus will show up back home in Bozeman, and his wife will turn me into the abuse society for starving her husband.
She'll come after you.
Yeah. But anyhow, Leupold does not make camera gear, so Marcus carried a whole bunch of Sony stuff up there. And lenses, but also the people who support this podcast Orion coolers. We did not carry any Orion coolers up there. We had those waiting in the truck to put the elk meat in when we came back. If you want to get a really cool tumbler, in addition to getting the coolest cooler out there that you'll ever find, go to orioncoolers.com and use promo code Randy, and you're going to get a free tumbler. And I don't care if you want to drink coffee, water, beer, it doesn't matter. It's just cool.
You get a free tumbler.
You get a free tumbler.
All I have to do is go online and punch in Randy.
Randy.
And I get a free tumbler.
You get a free tumbler. Well, no, I mean, you got to buy a cooler.
Oh, okay. Glad you clarified that.
Come on, Todd. And, but right now, you can win a free cooler, a free Orion cooler out on our website. I'm trying to remember. Not on our website, but on our Facebook page.
Okay.
Us and Orion it's called the home team because they got the really cool colors. Mm-hmm. You know, they have just about every color of any college football team you can think of. And so all you got to do is type in your name and say, hey, I want to be in the contest. And if you're in the contest, someone's getting pulled for a free Orion cooler of whatever color they want. So I asked them if they had purple and gold for the Vikings. And they're like, no, we have green and yet we're thinking about green and yellow for Packers. I'm like, oh man, come on. Jeez. But anyhow, it's mostly college colors. But Orion coolers, great stuff. We've been living out of them for a long time. This season we've been on the road. We'll get into that too, how many days we've already been on the road and how many we got in front of us. And then we have gohunt.com. Right now they're running a free trial offer through the end of October. If you go out to gohunt.com/Randy, they're going to give you 30 days. So whatever day you sign up, 30 days from then, you get to use the entire Go Hunt system. And that is how I drew this tag that we just came from. I did not know that they were having this hunt, and I'm sorting everything in my Go Hunt system, and I'm like, what? An elk season in Arizona that opens October, whatever it was, 6th? And the draw odds are that good? Something's wrong here. I go and research it, I'm like, ooh, I hope nobody sees this. But that's what I use Go Hunt for. Draw odds, researching units, and they have all of the major Western states that attract most of traveling non-resident hunters. They have it for general units, over-the-counter units. They have it for every species you can hunt. And again, if you want a 30-day free trial, just go out there right now. Make sure you sign up for it, though, before October 31st, and you're going to get access to the whole thing. And you'll see why it's become such an important part of our strategy of having to get 10 to 12 tags, well, even more this year, in order to do this TV show and platform that we do. Last but not least, for sure, is OnX Maps. Fortunately, where we were at here, it really wasn't an issue. It was a wilderness area. And some of you are like, Randy, you always say you can't get a film permit in a wilderness area. Well, I did this time. Thank you to the folks at Coconino National Forest who said, if you will go up there and talk about the values of backpack hunting or wilderness backpack hunting, and you will talk about the importance of how hunting is helping us keep elk off the aspen regeneration. And they gave me this list of story they wanted me to tell. And they gave me a film permit. So this hunt was not that critical to have the OnX system because we weren't really dealing with public-private boundaries. But having the layers on
all
the
the
smartphone,
like the satellite stuff, satellite imagery is pretty handy.
That was really cool because when we heard that bull bugling, and I'm walking around with my old school GPS because, like an idiot, I let my phone die.
And Marcus didn't pack enough battery packs for all of us.
Marcus only packed 20 pounds of battery, but or recharging equipment, but he used all that for his DSLR and his other stuff. And then I didn't really have the right adapter because I got a Droid, and the rest of I must be the only person in the world that has a Samsung phone.
Possibly.
Everybody else has an iPhone.
Yep.
So when you go to share charging devices, I'm screwed. So anyhow, we hear this bull bugling, and we'll get into this story because this was like the cruelest prank anyone's ever played on a hunter. Marcus pulled out his phone and he's got was that a 5x5 or a 10x10 map that you'd saved offline?
It was whatever the medium resolution.
Really?
one.
You got that kind of resolution? Because I always do the smaller ones so I get the higher resolution.
Yeah, it seems like the medium's pretty good for most stuff. I mean, it's pretty detailed still.
Okay, so what we're talking about is in the OnX system, you can use your whole system offline. You just say, I'm going off grid, and you save the map that you want, and let's see. A smaller map is the highest resolution. Medium map is the medium resolution. And the great big map is lower resolution, but still has a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it had every trail. It had everything on there. So
to your phone.
Yeah, to your phone. And so if you aren't an idiot and let your phone lay in your tent that night searching for service like I did, and forget to bring your recharging equipment, it's a very handy device. If you're smart like Marcus and you know how to manage the power in your phone, it's really handy.
Yeah.
So we ended up using Marcus's aerial imagery and all the trails and the whole work. So OnX Maps, go to onxmaps.com. And right now, if you use promo code Randy, man, we make this easy, don't
Randy.
we? R-A-N-D-Y. Even Ty can spell that. you are going to get 20% off all their app products. So there you go.
That's
people
awesome.
have just saved enough money by listening to this podcast that they almost owe it to me to listen to it.
Right.
So with all that, this was a fun hunt, guys.
It was really fun.
Was it what you thought it would be?
It was. I honestly had no idea what to expect. Like I'd only been to Arizona as a kid.
Oh, okay.
And so this is like my first time to Arizona. But when you said rifle hunt in early October, I immediately thought bugling bulls and dead elk. I mean, in that order. So the aspens, the mountain, the 10,000 feet, like that was all kind of a surprise to me.
Yeah.
Like that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous up there.
I think when people see the video, they're not going to think this is Arizona.
No, the scenics were amazing.
Yeah.
Although the elk hunting isn't quite what I expected.
On the way down, Marcus had me shooting a 320-inch bull opening morning.
Yeah.
And then,
I think I said 300.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't too ambitious.
All right.
But
and then when we went up there Wednesday evening, did we see any elk our first day?
No.
So first day of scouting, no elk. That night, lots of bugling while we're sleeping in our tents. And I don't know if it was some kids down below playing around with practicing their bugling or what. Then we get up Thursday morning. Did we see any elk Thursday morning?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, we did see the one way across over by the ski.
Yeah, like a mile away.
Yeah. And he was just darting into the timber.
Yeah.
So by that time, I think our expectations went from a 300-inch bull opening morning to maybe in 5 days we'll kill a spike.
Yeah.
And joining us on this hunt was a college buddy of mine who I've kept in touch with for a long time. He's from Arizona. He grew up in Williams, just like 25, 30 miles west of here. Wade Zarlingo. Wade brought Uno and what's his other llama? Quarto.
Yeah.
And so they carried about 100 pounds of gear up the mountain between them.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Yeah, what did he put? 24 in each pannier.
Yep.
24 pounds, so that's 48 per llama. And weighted all. So there's no potable water up in this wilderness area where we were going. So Wade knew we had the tag, and he wanted to get his llamas in shape. So him and his buddy Clayton Crowder, yeah, Crowder. Yeah. They came up here. They wanted to get the llamas some exercise because Wade said they'd just been loafing around in his pasture for the last 6 months. And they hauled, 11 gallons of water up there?
Yeah.
So we'd have water when we got there. Otherwise, I don't think we could have done this hunt. If we would have had to carry our own water up there,
we would have made multiple trips for sure.
Multiple trips up that steep, ugly, nasty face that doesn't have a trail. It has game trails. That counts sometimes.
Yeah.
So anyhow, did it turn out how you thought, Marcus? Or
well, it ended up pretty good, but
yeah.
I mean, I think the entire hunt we have about 9 seconds of elk footage.
Yeah.
So like realistically, that's about all I got.
Yeah.
Questionably in focus.
Right. Yeah.
And the reason that is, folks, is when you get up in that wilderness area, a lot of it burned in 2000, I can't remember, 10 or 11. And it is nothing but dead trees, or on the other side of the ridge where it didn't burn, it's fir and aspen so thick that you could easily hunt in there with a spear because you're going to be in spear range, I think, if you see one. And so when Marcus says he didn't get a lot of footage, he could have, but in order for Ty to get here, Ty flew down. And so it's like, well, how do we get Ty from town out to the trailhead and then up the hill? And Marcus, I don't know, did you volunteer?
I thought it would be good for me.
Oh, so Marcus said, rather than sit around camp here and tell old college stories like you and Wade, I think I'll hike down to the trailhead. I'll go get Ty. And you guys scout this last evening, and Ty and I will be here by dark. So Marcus runs back to town, gets Ty. We saw 6 elk that night. Wade and I did. And so there is some footage on the 6300.
Oh, you did get some. I thought you didn't get any.
No, but it's just almost so black. That,
okay.
You're going to need some serious editing to pull the image of the elk.
He means
I'll just hit the enhance button and it'll just be perfect.
He means magic. That's what he means.
Wade and I were all excited because that evening when Marcus went to get Ty, we're sitting over the one little skanky foul water hole that's up there. In came a cow, 2 cows and a calf. One of the cows had a radio collar. And then a 5-point and 2 spikes. So
that's right.
Wade.
I missed out on the best opportunity for getting elk footage.
And I feel bad because you had to hike up and down that dang thing twice.
Just for you.
Just for me.
Yeah.
Just to herd me in there.
Well, we kind of needed to anyway because I didn't realize how much storage the new camera was going to use. So I ended up buying a new hard drive so we could offload footage. Make room.
So we bought this new Sony camera that it weighs about 48 pounds, and before you put a battery in it. No, it doesn't weigh that much, but it takes an amazing image, but holy cow, does it ever use up media in a hurry.
Yeah, I think it'll be worth it.
All right.
I hope.
You're the guy who's been carrying it. So
yeah.
And then we bought a lens for it that's about as long as my leg.
Yes.
And about as big around. It's, I don't know. We almost need a Sherpa to carry that lens around. But Marcus wanted it. So anyhow, this hunt, folks, was... so I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to spill the beans. There's no sense in hiding what this hunt is. So in the Arizona regulations... Here's what I would suggest everybody do before the February deadline. In early February is where the Arizona application date is, deadline. Go buy your Arizona hunting license because you need to buy a license in order to apply in Arizona. And apply for deer and elk, or elk and antelope. And then later in June, apply for deer and bighorn sheep because early June, you can use that same license to apply for your deer or sheep tag.
How much is that license?
It's like 140.
Yeah, I think it's $140. It's not cheap
for the non-resident.
But if you're,
it's cheaper than other states,
right?
Yeah.
And if you're excited about hunting all the other things Arizona has to offer, like I am, you can hunt a ton of other stuff with it. Last year we hunted quail, we hunted javelina here, we hunted coos deer.
Yeah, there's over-the-counter coos and mule deer for archery.
Archery, yeah. In December and January. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, some of their best cows, coos, however you want to pronounce it.
And the deer are rutting then, too,
I was going to say, aren't the mule deer
they're
rutting at that point?
Yeah, they're a little later down here,
south,
I guess.
Yeah.
Are the coos rutting too?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, it's so much fun. I will be here every January until they put me in the ground, which... I don't know if I keep smart enough to people.
January.
Keep smart enough to people down in the parking lot. It might be. I might not make this January's hunt. But anyhow, that's the deadline. Is in February. So Arizona has, everyone thinks this 10% restriction on non-residents. Mm-hmm. And they do, with one exception. And this is where it's really good to be a CPA, because as a CPA, I'm accustomed to reading fine print. And if you read the fine print, down at the bottom, they have this thing called limited opportunity outcomes. And it's for it to be considered a limited opportunity, what they're trying, those seasons are designed around areas where they're trying to knock down the elk numbers or keep elk from expanding into places where, well, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's competition for forage or crop damage or whatever. Anyhow, if you go down to the bottom of the list of hunt codes, you're going to find limited opportunity hunts. And non-residents are not subject to the 10% in those. Non-residents could draw every one of those tags. And people say, Newberg, how do you guys draw so damn many Arizona elk tags? Well, we're usually hunting in these limited opportunity areas. About half of our hunts down here are that. So there you go, folks. I just spilled the beans. And this year you saw a series of those hunts called the Unit 7E Peaks units. Now, talking to the game manager, what was his name? Colby? Great guy. He said that they've now knocked the elk numbers down to where they wanted them to. And so the reason they're trying to knock them down, they're working with the Forest Service, because when the fire came right away, then the aspen's trying to regenerate. They're worried the elk, I mean, let's face it, elk love aspen sucklings that are just shoots coming out of the ground. And so the idea was, if they hit the elk pretty hard, it would give the aspen a chance to get to that stage where, okay, elk can't. The aspen are going to grow faster than the elk can eat them. And so that's what this season was designed for. I don't know if it's going to be in the package next year.
Yeah, it sounded like they've been successful in knocking down the herd.
Right.
They've reached their goal.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of cool to use hunting as this landscape management tool. And so if you hear the train in the background, it's because we're getting smart. We stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night, right next to the railroad tracks. If you've ever seen the show My Cousin Vinny, and the train comes by and the hotel starts rumbling, well, that was me at about 4:00 this morning when the train came by.
Yeah, there's no shortage of trains going by here.
No. But anyhow, we apologize for that background noise. But limited opportunity hunts in Arizona are a way for non-residents to get around the 10% cap. And I can't believe I just told the world about that.
Well, and in theory, they're lesser quality hunts. In theory.
Right.
But like compared to some of the over the counter tags and stuff in other states, they're pretty quality.
I would say that we were hunting with a rifle on October 6th, and we call this bull that starts bugling, and we walk up and we shoot him. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good opportunity.
And looking at the map, the first time I got to look at the map is when we got out. I had no clue what we were doing or where we were going when I got here. And we hiked in, hunted, and came back out. And I looked at an aerial picture, actually an old 1960s or 70s aerial picture in the burger joint.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, we literally touched a tiny percentage of this wilderness.
Oh, yeah.
Like just a tiny little part of it. Like, who knows what's out there?
Yeah.
Like that saddle. If we could have got you to go to that saddle, I mean, there could have been 100 bulls there.
There could have been. But since there was a trail going through there, and this is a very popular place for people from Phoenix to come up and get away from the hot weather,
there was that.
For every bull, there were probably 300 people.
Yeah.
So I was not bushwhacking through that deadfall to go to that saddle as much as you coveted the opportunity to be there. So the way this hunt unfolded was opening morning. We had a great plan because Wade and I had seen those elk at that water hole. So we went and sat there. And I don't know what shooting hours are in Arizona. I use the half hour before sunset or sunrise and a half hour after sunset. But all the locals tell me, no, if you can see without the aid of artificial light, it's shooting time. Regardless.
Seems slightly subjective.
Seems totally illegal.
Then we should have been hunting under the moon then.
Right? I was going to say, we could have hunted at night
So
in that case.
That day was the peak of the full moon.
Yeah.
It was so bright when we were walking up there. I mean, you didn't need a headlamp. I woke up at like 4 a.m, go take a leak, and it was like someone was shining a flashlight on my tent.
Yeah. Dang near one of those little bikini mask things. Those little
got a moonburn when I was out there. But anyhow, opening morning, we walk over there and we set up where Wade and I were the night before, where we'd seen those elk in the pond. And I don't know, we were there 20, 30 minutes, and all of a sudden Wade says, "There's an elk right below us." And all this dead, snaggy timber that's burned, you can see them, but as I would take my binoculars and roll the focus wheel to focus on the elk, he's about 170 yards away, I could see the elk. I thought I could see antlers. But then when I would roll back a little bit because of those trees right in front of him, like halfway, I'm trying to see how many limbs are hanging off those dead snags. And it's just this spider web of dead snags. When you focus at a further distance, it looks like, oh, there's not a lot of brush in the way. Mm-hmm. And then you roll back and focus to the point of where those dead snags were, about 100 yards out there. It was just a mess. I'm like, how am I going to thread one through there? And as Marcus and I are kind of butt scooting over there across the hillside trying to find a shooting lane, I'm whispering, and when you're deaf like I am, I say I'm whispering. I don't know if I am. I'm like, Wade, are those antlers? Because when the elk put his head down, he was buried in this tree. And I'm thinking, at this low light, I'm sure those are antlers, but what if those are just dead snags off some of these blown down, burned up trees? And Wade's like, huh? I'm like, oh, his hearing's as bad as mine. Pretty soon, he and I quote unquote, whispering back and forth. The bull picks his head up like something isn't right up there on the hill. And off he went. That was 6 seconds of your 9 seconds of footage, wasn't it, Marcus?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm back there trying to figure out how to turn the camera on.
Right. Right. We brought Ty down to be a Sherpa and a cameraman, and then we found out that he's a way better Sherpa than he is a cameraman. But we didn't find that out until it was too late. Oh, man.
So let's talk about how you brought me down.
Okay. So yeah.
On top of all the companies that you mentioned that are, support your podcast here.
Yep.
You are also a huge supporter of conservation, and everybody that's listening knows that.
Yep.
And my coworker, we'll step back. You brought me here in support of conservation.
Right. Your coworkers at Backcountry Hunters and Anglers.
Correct. Yes. Yep. Grant Albin.
Yep.
He's the idea guy.
Yeah.
Like, he always comes up with the ideas, and then somebody else does it. And
that's why he's called smart.
Very intelligent, yes. And I was at my desk one day, and Lan Tawney, my boss, president, CEO of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, texts me like we're in the same building, 2 different offices.
But you got a text.
But I got a text. Yeah, come up to my office. I'm like, shit, what did I do? So I go in there and I open the door, and it's him and Grant. And Grant looks at me and just smiles. And I'm like, oh, shit. And we're just before, like, coming up on the rendezvous, which is in early April.
Yeah.
And Lan goes, sit down. And I'm like, what? I don't know what I did. But Grant's smiling, so I know I'm something's up. And so Grant goes, what do you think about, what if we auctioned you off with like some gear or something, and you could film somebody's hunt for a week? And immediately in my mind, I'm like, number one, I don't want to lose vacation time. And number 2, I'm like, what if I get stuck with somebody that we just don't click? Or, I mean, I get along with most everybody, but when you're hunting, you know how it is. And so I like sitting on this for quite a while, just stewing on it, thinking about it. So finally I agree. I'm like, it would be fun. I get to go hunting for a week and get paid for it for work, right?
Right.
And so fast forward to the rendezvous. I don't remember what I got auctioned off. It was a package of Sitka gear or something.
It was a week of your filming plus a full, complete lineup of the new Sitka subalpine pattern.
Okay, yeah.
And so I told Marcus, I said, you know what? We're going to find some badass, terrible hunt this fall, and I'm buying this week for Ty. And sitting next to me are Renee and JR Young. And I hear Renee say, do you think Ty knows how to run a camera very well? I'm like, I don't know. He better, because I'm going to bid on this. And she's like, well, you better have a lot of money, because I'm bidding on it too. At this time, she'd already drawn her Arizona elk tag.
Oh.
So she knew she wanted a camera person. So Renee and I got in a bidding war, and I lost.
and you fought to the very bitter end.
We did. Finally, I'm like, look, Renee, I am not a doctor, okay? I am not like you. I'm not a doctor in the Bay Area who, I don't know.
JR is on the National Board of Directors for Backcountry Hunters. Another solid guy. And Renee,
great guy. They're
Renee
two great people.
Is a doctor in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And JR, her husband, works for Renee.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So finally, I just said, you know what? I give up. I have to be able to make payroll this month. I can't. I can't tell my employees, hey, guess what? I just bid too much for the services of Ty, who we later find out doesn't know where the power button is on the camera. And so JR looks at me and gives me kind of the hands off to the side, like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. She runs the show, man, and she wanted this. So I don't know what she paid, but I went up afterwards and I talked to somebody, Land or you or Grant, and said, hey, I'll pay what my last bid is if you guys will give a second week. And since I already have all the Sitka gear known to man, you auction off the line of Sitka stuff that would have come with the package. Because what do I need more Sitka gear for? I mean, I believe that anything worth having is worth having more of. But I have more Sitka gear that if someone came and robbed my house and they took all my Sitka gear, I'd probably file a very large claim. So it worked out really good. You guys at BHA got to auction off a whole new line of Sitka gear, which I think somebody paid like $1,200 or $1,300. $1,400 for that. I paid way too much for your services.
Yes, you did.
And then I paid to fly you down
and Renee
there.
paid more than you did.
Yeah, I know she did. So Renee, call me, Renee. I got a few things you need to know about this guy before you head to elk camp with him. But here's the fun part. So we're going to be back down here in December, the same time you guys are filming Renee's hunt. Jerry Pritchard has a late season tag here too. And if we shoot an elk early and you guys are still hunting, we're coming and imposing on your camp.
Oh, I hope so. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And
sure.
we're going to help you guys. We're going to Sherpa film. I'll cook. Well, JR is such a good cook. I am not going to offer to cook. Okay. I'll offer to eat.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So that's how Ty ended up here.
So for me, like I was thinking, oh yeah, I might get $500 out of this, and that's cool, and I'll have fun, and so it far exceeded my expectations. I think combined auction off the Sitka gear and everything was $14,000.
Yeah,
is what we made.
Yeah.
To go towards conservation. So for me, and I've known you for a while, and I look up to you, and I highly respect your conservation and your stance on it, and your willingness to talk about it all the time, your passion for it. So for me to be here with you and to be able to actually go elk hunting with you and film, and I actually got to call a bull, it doesn't get any better than that. Like I'm truly humbled and appreciative of that, and you bringing me on. So I want you to know that.
I appreciate that, Ty, but I
can't thank you enough.
I think Marcus and I would thank you for being here, because quite honestly, the way this hunt worked out, without you guys, there is no way this bull would have got killed. So we got to talk about. Marcus is over there like, are you gonna come on? You got to tell the next part of it. So after the bull gets away opening morning, Wade is with us, and we're hiking up the ridge trying to get way up high where it hasn't burned yet, which I don't know why we were really going that way, because it was so thick up high. It's like, this would be stupid to go here. What could we film in this jungle? But
it seemed like kind of the only option.
Right.
It's like, well, let's just go further in.
Yeah. Yeah. Considering that now we had a bear hunter up there on our water hole. We had a guy and a turkey hunter. So, folks, you guys are not going to believe this. So some guy hikes up to over 10,000 feet and sets up a blind on this water hole that we'd been watching the elk from the night before to fill a turkey tag.
Mm-hmm.
Very ambitious turkey hunter.
Yeah, the National Wild Turkey Federation needed to give that guy some sort of recognition. The most energetic turkey hunter in North America went up to the Kachina Peaks Wilderness area to fill his turkey tag. And I thought he was nuts until the day we were packing out my bull. We ran into that big flock of turkeys way up there at over 10,000 feet.
They're there. That's
crazy.
I ran into a hen when I left you guys packing out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I ran into a hen down there in the bottom.
Huh.
But
I couldn't believe it. When you guys told me there's a turkey hunter down there that you guys had talked to him.
We went and watered the llamas, tried watering the llamas. The llamas have nothing to do with that stuff.
Oh, that water. You know the water is bad when a llama won't drink it.
Llama wouldn't even drink it, yeah. And we're standing there and this guy just pops out of the brush out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he walks down and he wasn't a super friendly guy, but I don't imagine he was too tickled about us walking through the middle of his water hole when he's trying to kill a turkey. But
yeah,
he comes down and so we're like, oh, okay, so what tag do you have? He goes, turkey. And I looked at him with this blank stare like, you're joking, right? I was like, are you kidding me? And so, yeah, a turkey hunter climbed all the way up there.
Yeah. And so with the turkey hunter sitting in the middle of what we thought was our exclusive setup here, that, all right, we got it dialed in, man. We got the only water on this side of the mountain. We just got to be patient, hunt around here. Well, I was willing, any turkey hunter willing to hike that far, I was willing to say, you know what, you can have this water hole. He deserved it. So that forced our hand to have to go and do some different things. And that's why we started climbing further up the ridge. We figured if we could kill an elk at 11,000 feet, I think that would be the highest elevation we would have killed an elk on our TV show.
Really?
In New Mexico, last year, Tim Lesser shot one at like 10.4. About that. So I am thinking, well, I guess we're just going to go on a hike. But I wasn't that excited because on the way down here, my liver blew up. Not literally blew up, but I have this bum liver and it started giving me fits. And on the hike in on Wednesday, I was just, I was sucking air. I was bad. And then I think I slept a lot on this hunt that night we got there, and you guys just let me do a lot of sleeping, thankfully.
Well, luckily we got there a couple days early too.
Yeah.
It's kind of allowed to relax a little bit.
Yeah, so my liver wasn't fully recovered by this time, so when those guys wanted to go up higher and higher and higher, I'm like, how about lower and lower and lower? Right now the tent sounds like a really good place to try killing elk from, But we did that. And didn't really pan out. When
we did we saw a bull.
Right, you're right. Wade did see that bull. See, the three of us are like head down, just cramming up the hill. And Wade, he'd stop every once in a while. The glass. What a novel idea, huh?
Wade uses that glass a lot.
Yeah, and he's like, hey. And when he is whispering, hey, Marcus and Ty stopped. I keep making noise walking up the hill, and Wade's like, hey, Randy. Oh, what? There's a bull up there. And there was. I wonder if that's the bull we ended up shooting, because it looked like it was kind of muddy.
Yeah, I should look at the footage, because I did get a couple seconds of that bull before he walked in the
2
trees.
seconds. So we've now
of course I had the camera for that lens and everything to get that longer shot, and I'd run ahead to try to get you a shot of you guys walking through. And
right,
yeah,
that's another thing. Ty is always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
He was in the right place at the right time.
So now
at least once on this.
Now we've accounted for 8 of your 9 seconds of footage on this.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that was kind of it for that day. We didn't hear any bugles or anything. Mm-hmm. One thing I have found is if you're carrying a bugle by Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, which is one of the big supporters of our operation. And Ty sees that you have that attached to your pack. It's like a little kid in the toy store who wants the choo-choo train. You can make a lot of noise with this thing. So
that's not an exaggeration.
No, and Ty
once.
Ty, whenever I'd look at him, he'd stick his tongue out at me, and he'd have his diaphragm call on his tongue, which I think was code word for "let me use this." So finally, I just take my bugle tube and I throw it at him. I'm like, you know what? Knock yourself out.
Well, you told me no bugling. You said no bugling for
the first
2 days.
day. Yeah.
Well,
first
and
day,
you said, well,
days.
don't you ever bugle? I'm like, yeah, when I don't have a plan. I walk around the woods and I just bugle like crazy. So we did not raise a bugle that day, did we? Opening day?
No, I think we tried cow calling a little bit where that bullet went into the trees, but it's so windy.
Right. Yeah, we did.
It was so windy, I don't think you could hear us.
Yeah, that had been at least 25-mile-an-hour wind up there in that ridge. So the first day was, I'd say that would qualify as close to a bust.
Yeah.
I mean, I kept having regrets of why didn't I try to thread a bullet through all that dead brush opening morning? Man, we could have been done. But that's just,
you also could have wounded a bull.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not going to do it. I mean, I seem to end up creating a share of messes by not doing stupid things, by doing things according to protocol. So the last thing I'm going to do is force that issue. So then what did we do after that? We
napped.
We napped. Oh yeah, boy! I tell you what, there's some good napping country up here in the Kachina Peaks.
Turns into time lapse time for me. That's when I set up my time lapses.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, not of me napping.
No.
Well,
I did get some footage of you napping.
Maybe some pictures and footage of you napping, but
Well, that's all right. I mean, that's part of elk hunting in early October when it's 65 degrees in the beautiful Rockies and the wind is rustling the leaves on the aspens.
Yeah.
If you lay down and you smell the aspen leaves becoming part of soil and you hear the leaves rustling, if that doesn't make you sleepy, you're communist. you got issues, man.
No, it was a beautiful place.
Oh, I appreciated it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
That one rock that warmed up a little bit facing to the south, man, when I put my back against that, I was like sitting in a seed heater. I mean, it's like, I was out.
Yeah.
So, but I think we went back and then we sat on the trails leading into the water hole that night.
Yeah.
And we didn't see anything.
No.
Nothing. Other than a full moon about the size of Saturn or something.
I filmed some birds, chickadee.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Mountain
exciting.
bluebird.
Yeah, mountain bluebird.
Mm-hmm.
You tried to get some ravens.
Yeah, I probably got some raven footage. Some
we
high quality stuff.
Yeah, really high quality stuff.
We did get some wildlife footage.
Yeah, we didn't really see anything that was remarkable. So that night we went back to camp and just ate Mountain House, got a gut ache, and went to bed. Right?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the cool part about the short days this time of year, that 9 hours of sleep at night is worth a lot.
I've never gotten that in elk season, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Recharge.
Oh, man.
And then somewhere in the middle of that night, Ty gets up and tries to tell the world that he's heard bugles near camp. I call BS.
I heard it.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah.
You think it? I think
it was at 5. It was 4:25 in the morning. I heard a couple bugles.
I think it was the other hunters up there.
Well, I heard it.
Why would they be bugling like 2 hours
because
before
they didn't have a plan.
Yeah, they're just
like me.
walking around trying to. I guess they could have been walking around trying to locate,
Well, it
but
was
they were
like-
ambitious if they were that early.
Yeah, it was like daylight out there.
That's true.
I mean, if the Arizona rule that the locals here tell me is you can shoot as long as you can shoot without the aid of artificial light, you could have hunted 24 hours a day in this full moon
Yeah, I was
period.
glassing that very first night before season when those bulls were bugling. I was glassing, and if they were on that open face, I would have seen them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And it was like, it'd been dark for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Well, Randy, you've given me new hope because
really?
Yeah, I've been pretty down in the dumps
Uh-huh.
in the last couple of years, knowing that my hearing's going,
Yeah.
and in comparison to my 30-some-year-old son-in-law and my 16-year-old daughter, I can't hear as well,
Uh-huh.
and I know it's happening. But hunting with you has made me realize I'm not as deaf as I thought I was.
Right. You're not post level. I mean, you can carry on a conversation without having to read lips, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the downside of that is, Ty, now you've just admitted to your wife that if she's talking, you can hear.
Luckily for me, she won't listen.
See, for me, you have just provided proof to my wife that this guy really can't hear. He's not making this up.
Nope.
So we'll get into the hearing part here real shortly, because the second day we go and sit over the water hole again. We're there well before sun comes up. Beautiful sunrises here, man. It is remarkably beautiful. And I'm just worried about how many other hunters are sitting around on other knobs surrounding this water hole. And I didn't see it, but Marcus said 4 elk snuck off to our left, but I called
it was really early.
Yeah.
I tried to get a camera on them, and they were gone before you could even get anything, and it was pretty dark.
It was dark.
So that they make this stuff up every once in a while, and they see I'm down in the dumps. They're like, Let's pretend like we saw something today. Let's get Randy excited. And so I think that's what that whole gig was in the morning. And so whole fire drill again, or not really fire drill, boredom drill. Nothing's happening. And we decide we're going to walk up the ridge. We are going to get to the top of the ridge today, because I'm feeling better. I'm not like the boat anchor that I was the day before, dragging us down. And Wade had to go back to camp because Clayton was coming up that day to meet us, because he just got done with his Wyoming hunt. He got blizzarded out up in the Wind River Range. That sounds familiar, eh, Marcus?
Yup.
We were up there in September. Marcus shot a bull, and then we got blizzarded out. But anyhow, Clayton came down back home. He lives in Arizona here. So Wade couldn't come with us because he had to go.
Well, he was with us
in
that
the
morning. Because remember, we did have those bulls bugling that morning.
Yeah.
We never saw them.
Oh yeah,
but
that's right.
We heard a couple bulls bugle.
They were You finally turned over the bugle.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we're walking, and I admit to not being the world's best elk caller.
That's right. You bugled first. You got it going.
Yeah. And Ty says, no, you just got to keep bugling until they answer back. I'm like, all right. So about every 10 steps, I'd blow on my bugle. And finally they said, oh, one responded right there. I'm like, it did? So I bugled again, and I finally heard him. I'm like, holy crap. That's the beauty of my bugling. If I'm alone, they are really close if I hear them. I mean, they're already in archery range if I hear them. And so the plan was that Marcus and I were going to sneak in on them, and Ty was going to stay up there and bugle. And so when I handed Ty the bugle, he's like, I'm keeping this for the rest of the night. You're not getting this back. So Ty kept bugling, but for whatever reason, that bull, I think I only heard him one more time.
Yeah, a couple times, and then he just shut up. But it was getting pretty midday. What time was it?
It was 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30.
By the time we got in on him, yeah.
It was late morning. They'd probably been up all night with that full moon.
Yeah.
So sounded like he was just laying in his bed.
Right. I was going to say, he didn't seem very energetic. It was just like,
And it just kept getting thicker and thicker as we were going towards him, too. So it was just like, we were going to bump him.
Yeah, we were going to blow him out of there. And since we had such a plethora of elk to choose from, I was worried about blowing him out of there.
Yeah.
So I told Marcus, I said, you know what, unless he starts responding again, we're just going to back out of here and leave him here for this evening. And that's right. So I forgot about that encounter. I got so excited wanting to tell the next part of the story. And so that's when Wade left and headed back down to meet up with Clayton. And we said, well, we're just going to go up here for an hour, so we'll meet you back down by the tank this afternoon. Well, it didn't work out that way. We went up to that napping spot. Man, if I'm ever coming to Arizona to take a nap, I think I'm going to hike 2,000. I'm going to hike 2,000 feet up that hill to that spot. It's
pretty nice.
Call that Nap Ridge.
Yeah. That is like the best spot I think I've ever napped on an elk hunt in all my years of elk hunting. But people kept coming by and waking me up, man.
that got a little weird, yeah.
So
at that point, that was the first point where I was like, huh. Maybe we won't kill an elk.
Yeah. I mean,
there's people everywhere.
So on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the only person we saw was the world's most energetic turkey hunter. Oh, and we did see the guy who had the cow tag. So there's 40 bull tags and 40 cow tags at the same time. So the one guy did have a cow tag.
Yeah, and there's no real trail up to this place. It's game trails and going through thick stuff.
It's
and
bushwhacking.
Yeah, and and still these people, good on them. They were ambitious.
And here's the deal, like the turkey hunter.
Yeah.
If that isn't ambitious enough. The cow hunter was on his first hunt.
Ever.
Yeah.
And he was way the heck up in there. Solo. He'd packed camp up there.
Yeah.
You could tell, like he to me, my perception of him was he was like a foodie.
Right.
He's like new to hunting. He wants to get his own meat. He had big Coke bottle glasses, and he had his hunter's vest on, and and hunter orange hat on, and
it was cool to see.
But he was up there doing it, and he was getting after it for a damn cow.
Yep. I was so impressed with him, and I told him that when I walked down to talk to him the first time. I don't know if you guys could hear my audio.
I did,
yeah. We were creeping on that conversation.
Okay, I said, man, you are the most energetic cow hunter I've ever met. He looked at me. He's like, what do you mean? I said, most cow hunters are down there by the road outside the wilderness area. He's like, oh, well, this is my first hunt. I really don't, I didn't know that. Or something to that effect. He's like, I thought this is how you do it. And I encouraged him. I'm like, if I knew where there was a cow right now, I would go there and help you kill that thing and get it out of here, because I don't think he realized.
He doesn't realize.
If he had shot a cow elk, I bet you his first expression when he walked up to it would have been, oh my God.
Yep.
I think everybody kind of has that on their first elk, this realization of, wow, this is a big animal.
Yeah. But I was excited to see him up there. When he said it was his first hunt, and he was just sleeping out of what little thing he had in his pack, because then that second morning we ran into him also.
Yep.
Yeah, and he'd picked up camp and
moved further up the mountain. And he said that night a bull elk walked right by his tent and woke him up in the middle of the night. He said, in the moonlight, I stuck my head out there, and there it was standing right by my tent.
That's awesome. Cool. That's awesome.
So, I'd love to see more guys like that.
Heck yeah.
Doing it.
So then the next group that we saw when we were napping on the ridge and woke up was a 12-year-old kid and his dad.
Yeah.
How far in is that? 3 miles?
Well, when they came in, didn't they come in from a different trail?
From the bottom.
From the bottom.
Yeah. Chad was the kid's name. What was his dad's name? Matt?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Man, I was impressed that kid was, and he was still excited.
Yeah.
Most 12-year-olds, by the time you would have drug them
to the top
far,
of that,
would have just said, I want to go home. Dad, take me home. He's like, Dad, come on, let's go. We got to find an elk.
Yeah.
Dad, come on. The whole time they're talking to us, the kid's like, I want to go, Dad. I want to find an elk.
Yeah.
And what they said that day, they'd seen 4 bears, a bobcat, and some turkeys.
Yeah, turkeys.
But they hadn't seen an elk.
Right.
And I said, well, join the crowd.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen 4 bears, a bobcat, and any turkeys by that time, so you're ahead of us. And so that was fun to visit with them, even though it did interrupt my nap for a while. And while we're talking to them, along comes Nate and Matt, another Matt, and they had this tag for the upcoming. So starting this Friday, another bull season opens up there.
Wow.
Yeah, they have 4 seasons in a row.
Crazy.
Yeah, it gets a lot of pressure. I should have looked at that in the regulations. I should have been like, Randy, guess what? This place gets hunted really hard. There's a reason this is limited opportunity, because they are hunting it really hard. But I'm not smart. I only read the fine print that said non-residents exempt from the 10%. The quota, and that was all I needed
saw
to
stars.
See. Right. Dances, big dreams of 350-inch bulls were dancing in my head after that. But so Nate and Matt, they said they're going way up on the next ridge above that hadn't burned, and they were going to set up, I think they were like storing a bunch of camp stuff, weren't they, for the
they were scouting for the next week. Yeah.
And they said, well, if you shoot one, let us know. We'll be coming out at noon tomorrow. So I'm like, well, don't stand by your phone for 2 reasons. One, mine's dead. Otherwise, I'd give you my number. And 2, I don't think we're going to have that worry.
You would have thought we were standing on the main trail.
That was
so weird. Yeah. Because it's just game trail on a ridge.
Knifeback Ridge.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, at one time
it's cool to see people getting after it, but at the same time, it's a little discouraging when you're like, man, how are we going to kill an elk with all these people around?
Right.
Yeah, at that point, that was probably my low point of the hunt. Was when that many people came to the same little spot where I was napping and you guys were listening. But this is where it gets good from here on out, right?
Yeah.
So before you tell the story,
Uh-huh.
so coming on this trip and knowing that you have a great sense of humor, it was my goal to play a practical joke on you.
Uh-huh.
I asked everybody in the office at BHA, hey, I'm going hunting with Randy. I have to play a joke on him. What do you get? I'm open for ideas. I need something. I cannot do this, go on this trip without playing a joke on Randy. And I don't want to play like put a rock in your pack. Like people have already done that to you.
Yeah.
And hide your toilet paper or turn your tent around backwards so you're confused when you get back, like stuff like that. And so it was my goal to play a little joke, but by the time I'd really figured out what I wanted to do, it was too late, and I'm like, I'm just going to go have fun. Something will happen along the way.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. And you probably knew that.
I was on the lookout. I was keeping a close eye to make sure that Ty didn't get near my pack or anything like that. I figured if I gave him this bugle tube, I gave him as the equivalent of what do they call those fidget spinners or whatever. Did I hear any bugling up there? Yeah, I think I heard more times when there was bugling than not if Ty had the bugle in his hand. The guy, he's like, I don't know. You got some issues going on. When you got a bugle in your hand, it's like, oh, let's see how much noise I can make up here. But I told him, shut up, because I'm taking a nap. Quit blowing on that thing. And the wind's howling, and it's like, 2 in the afternoon? And I'm taking a nap. And when I fell asleep, I heard you guys whispering and talking over there. And I'm like, all right, they're conspiring against me. And I am in like my 4th nightmare. I am just sawing some serious logs here, man. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, did you hear that? I'm like, hear what? There's a bull bugling right up the ridge. I'm like, that's what they're talking about. We know Randy can't hear that well. Let's just pull a prank on him. Let's act like there's a bull up there because we know he's dependent upon our hearing. And so I sit up and I'm listening, and you would look at each other. That gave me the feeling like, all right, on the count of 3, let's say we heard a bugle. And I'm like, I didn't hear it. And you guys are...
And he bugled like 3 or 4. And to your defense, it wasn't like a full-on bugle. It was like... It was weird. We thought it might have been...
or something.
We thought it might be one of those wild donkeys.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, right. So I told him, I said, look, I'm going back to sleep. Until I hear it, it's not a bugle. And so I went back to sleep. And I don't know how long it was later. You guys are like, how can you not hear that? I'm like, I'm sleeping. I can't hear anything. And even when I'm awake, I can't hear much. So shut up and let me go back to sleep.
I'm pretty sure you were getting a little temperamental about it.
Well, I was temperamental because it was this mixed emotion of, all right, I'm tired and I need some sleep. My liver isn't feeling that great. And sleep is the best thing for it. And you guys think it's funny to pull a practical joke on me.
Well, and we just started laughing so hard but it was funny because you didn't believe us. It wasn't funny because we were making it up. It was just funny because you just absolutely would not believe us.
Well, if it was just you, Marcus, I would have believed you.
I'm a nice enough guy.
But I trust you. Ty, I wouldn't trust Ty in a shit house with a spoon. And so when you guys were talking, I'm like, all right, they are conspiring because Ty did say, he said, somewhere on this hunt, I'm pulling a joke on you. You did give me fair warning the day you showed up. You said, be careful because I'm thinking this is it. This is the joke. We're going to march Randy up over the 3 or 4 ridges over to the ski hill.
Which we'd already mentioned wanting to do.
Right. So the tipping point though was when you guys went from interest and intrigue and laughter to like almost frustration of, listen here, you deaf moron. There is an elk up on the ridge who wants you to come and kill him. So it was when you guys almost went from joking to frustration with my indignation that I said, all right, I'm going to have to put my pack on and we're going to climb up here another 400 or 500 feet. And if I don't hear an elk, you guys are in trouble. That's what's going through in my mind. So I don't know. We hiked up there. What is it? I don't know, half mile to where. And you guys said, oh, it's just right over here, 300 yards. So we hiked 400 yards to get above the elk. And they're like, no, it's just another. Hear him? He's like 300 yards up here. But at that point, I did hear it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds like a burro.
Yeah.
Arizona is just loaded with wild burros. I had an elk tag over in Unit 10 one time, early rifle elk tag in 2005. And the number of burros in the morning, it was crazy. I'm like, what kind of elk are making that kind of noise? Well, that's what this thing sounded like. So I thought, all right, you guys are going to lead me into a burro.
And I couldn't verify either way. I'm like, I've heard some bulls make some really weird sounds, and that was definitely like, I'm pretty sure that's a bull, but if it is a mule, are you going to shoot it?
When I told Ty, I whispered to him, I'm like, I think it's a burro. He's like, can you shoot those? I'm like, no, you go to jail under the Wild Horse and Burro Act. You're going to jail.
That crossed my mind after you said it. Oh, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So I did finally hear it. And the whole time Ty's bugling, like, I don't know, every 3 or 4 seconds Ty'd bugle. And I think the bull was saying, would you shut up? I'm trying to get some sleep over here.
Turns out there was 3 of them in there, I think.
Yeah, I think there was. Yeah. And I heard all 3 of them at one point in time. If the wind would die down, I could hear them. But when the wind was whistling and blowing through the dead trees and stuff, for me, you may as well have some sort of rock concert going on in the background. It's like a waste of time.
Yeah.
So this is like, 4 o'clock when we finally get up to where that big group of dead aspens was blown down, and we got up above that. And this guy's like, you really can't make out what he wants to do.
Just like out of his bed. Like, I don't know, it was weird because he was just doing it on his own and just laying there. You could just tell he was laying there, but I don't know what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
Who he was talking to. I don't know.
Well, I think he's talking to that bull way down below and the one up above him, because those guys, they were either hunters or, I think Ty's brother was out here. Because the one down below, he really liked to get after it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going down in there. That's down by the trail. I think that's a hunter with a bugle. But you guys claim it was an elk, so I'm going with you guys.
No, I think they were all elk.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
So the funny part is we just left this crowd of people an hour or so earlier. And the one guys had went up above where we were here, where we'd now set up, Nate and Matt. And
the other 2 had kind of walked right underneath where these bulls were.
Exactly. Yeah. So that also had me wondering, with all this traffic and people around here, why would there be bulls there? But they got to be somewhere, I guess. And this wilderness area has a lot of activity going on. So.
Well, and it did turn out to be pretty thick in that stuff, and it's actually pretty far between the trail and the ridge in that thick timber where they were actually at.
Once we got in there, I'm like, this makes a lot of sense why they're here.
Yeah, it did. Because there was this not a little bowl, a big hillside that hadn't burned, and it was nothing but blowdown. It was terrible. And the first time we started going in there, and this is a point that I'd want to emphasize, is the temptation was to try to go in there and kill that bull, because he's bugling every 10 minutes or so. So you thought, okay, I'll be able to get close enough that with him making noise every so often, I'll be able to keep a location on him. I'll get in there and kill him. But the wind was absolutely wrong. It was
swirling pretty good on that ridge too. Yeah. It was kind of hard to tell what it was doing.
Right. So we started in there. We maybe made it 80, 100 yards.
Yeah.
And I turned to you guys and said, no, I'm not going to screw this up. I'm going to wait, and we're going to go back out, back on the spine of the ridge, and we're just going to wait them out. And I don't know what you guys thought at that time, but
I was like, it's probably the smart thing to do, but it's driving me nuts.
Yeah, I could tell. I kind of got the vibe that you guys wanted to go after him, but it's so noisy and the wind was so screwed up. And it's like, man, we really do have an elk here. I heard it, and if I heard it, it's got to be a bull. It's got to be close. Let's not screw this up.
Yeah,
and,
you made the right call for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So my point of that is, I think a lot of people do not play the wind even in rifle season. They just like, oh well, I'll shoot him. How about the wind? I'll get close enough or whatever. And in the mountains with thermals swirling, especially because we were kind of in a cup in that basin, and on one side the wind's coming hard up the wind. Other side, it's dropping down where those are converging, and it was just swirling in there.
And that's kind of right where those bulls were.
Imagine
which
that.
is weird.
Yeah, that's those.
Like you said, it's like they want to stay alive or something.
I mean, he was bedded in the perfect place with all the noise and blowdown.
Walking on popcorn.
Yeah, when people see the footage of where this bull is at, I think they're gonna be like, yeah, "There's no way you're gonna sneak in there and kill a bull." So, I don't know. What did we wait? Another hour?
We waited until the sun went behind the ridge.
And then the wind got a little more consistent, at least on the one side. And we knew that the other side was still heated up. So we knew the thermals would be coming up until the sun went way down. And so we started sneaking in there with the idea that Ty would stay back and film Marcus and I out in front, and Ty could bugle until his heart was content.
And I was happy.
Yeah. Ty had a smile like a ripple on a slop pail, man. He was like, oh, look, I get to play with my toy. I don't know if you filmed anything, but you were bugling like crazy.
I did film a little bit. I've got like one really crappy shot of me bugling. But I did film you guys sneaking through a few times, a few shots of that. And then, So.
Okay. But that's all right, because it was working. Ty would get this bull to respond every once in a while, and that would give Marcus and I a heading. And I don't know if people are going to see in the footage, but to me, everything sounds like it's to the right, because that's the only ear that works. And so I turned to Marcus, and I'm pointing my arm out in front of me, like, which vector do I take here? That. And Marcus would kind of point more right or more left. So if that's what he said, that's what I'm like, okay, then the elk is where Marcus pointed. What's the wind doing, and how do I work around that? Man, it took a long time.
And Marcus has got the headset on,
right,
for the audio for the camera. So, and I didn't have mine on, and so every once in a while he'd look back at me, and I'd be like, this way,
right? Yeah. It's hard for Marcus to really hear.
In a lot of those situations, I pop it off and just hope that the audio is good.
Right. and he does that because now, having worked for us enough, Marcus is like, if we're going to hear anything, I better take these headphones off. Cameraman and artificial ears is what Marcus's position is, their alternate hearing. But anyhow, we're going through there, but it is so noisy. What we were doing is, when I would hear you start to bugle, I would move forward because I know I could make a little bit of noise and get away with it. And fortunately, you bugled so often that like every 20 seconds, I could move forward a little more. And then we got to that big slide kind of blowdown area. And Marcus is like, he's just up there. He's close. Marcus is like, that's close. And by then, I could, even with my impairment, I could hear, all right, I think that's where he is. I mean, we were now close enough that I could tell where he was. But it's like, how do we get around?
That was a mess.
Yep.
It was
that blowdown patch was a mess.
It was just a whole series of trees blown down, big old fir trees of
limbs and big limbs.
Yeah. But fortunately, the sun was now down enough, and the thermals were coming downhill. So the only smart thing to do was to circle down below all that blowdown.
Yeah, and there was kind of that little meadow that we were able to follow. I mean, not much of a meadow, but
about 10 yards wide.
Yeah.
But enough that we snuck around that for a while, and they took us further away from the elk for a little while. But here's the beauty of it. We keep sneaking, and Ty is bugling, and that bull is now responding to him a little more frequently.
The closer we got, the more he started responding. Yeah.
But even then,
he never really full on bugled.
No,
it was just this, half-assed.
He would chuckle. When he would chuckle, I'd chuckle back.
Yeah.
And that seemed to get him like, wait, well, I don't know what's going on here, but starting to piss me off.
Yeah. One time he went from being a burro to actually saying, hey, I'm going to let the world know I really am an elk.
Yeah.
I think that's how he lived through hunting season up there. He acted like he is a burro. He's like, if I sound like a burro, no one's going to come to shoot me. So that last series of chuckles, we were right down at the bottom of that blowdown patch. And it is, you'll see the footage. It is so thick because it's growing up with these alpine spruce and stuff and just climbing over dead limbs. And that last chuckle is kind of when I got a really good bead on, all right, where does he have to be? And so we sneaked down underneath that, I don't know, that blowdown patch was probably 50 yards from top to bottom, maybe more. I don't know. But
I'm not sure.
We dropped down and we're standing there and I'm waiting for Ty to bugle again. And he didn't, but I look up the hill and I see this brown patch between these trees. I'm like,
well, I was trying to keep you guys in sight. Like I didn't want to be right on your heels, but I wanted to have you in sight so I could see what was going on and know where to follow you.
Yeah.
And so I was about 100 yards behind you.
Yeah.
And I was just moving. Actually, I think I was trying to get some woodpecker footage. This whole trip, we'd been trying to get a damn woodpecker on film, and one lands on a tree right in front of me. So I'm trying to get him in focus. Look at you, get the woodpecker in focus, and he flies off. And so I move forward like 10 yards, trying to creep forward 10 yards. And I set the camera down, and I look down just in time to see you drop to a knee. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I'm spin the camera around. I've got a tripod down, spin the camera around, hit record, and then I know the bull's right there. So I just bugle right at the bull, just right at his face, so he'll pay attention to me and not you. And
because he was, so we're like, I don't know, as far as elevation, we're maybe 100 feet in elevation below you, but maybe 80 yards out in front of you.
Yeah.
And we just lucked out. That bull was looking for you, and we hit that thermal coming downwind and we were below him. But fortunately, there was this little bit of rock where no trees could grow. Mm-hmm. So there was a slight opening. The only place...
Slight is an exaggeration.
Yeah. And that bull had walked far enough forward that he's standing on the edge of that. Well, it's not an opening, but it's just thinner timber. Mm-hmm. And I looked through my binos to make sure it was an elk because all I could see was this dark mane. And I turned to Marcus. I'm like, is that a bull? Marcus is like, where? Or something like that.
I said, I don't know. I could see the elk, but I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, because in that viewfinder, you can't tell. It just looks like a bunch of trees.
So I looked through the binos again, and I'm like, those have to be, those are not dead limbs. Those are antlers that I see coming up above those little spruce trees. And then he turns his head to look at you when you bugled again. And I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, that's him. And then it just happened so fast. I mean, you and I said a few words. I can't even remember kind of coordinating.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was in the viewfinder. I knew he was in frame, and unfortunately, I focused right past him. I think he's in focus about 1 second before the shot, and then right when you shoot it, it's like focused right past him. But it's just like, there's so many trees. I'm like, I don't know.
Fast.
It's like,
yeah. I mean.
And this is, by now we're creeping on dark.
It's
like when we were moving through there and stuff, and it sounded like one bull was like moving away.
Right, he definitely was.
Luckily, this one stood his ground a little bit, but I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna make it before it's too dark to film.
Yeah.
And so we were half hour before dark at this point, maybe.
Yeah. I'd say filming light, we had about another 15 or 20 minutes of filming light in that dark timber like that.
Yeah. So it's hard when you're running the camera to be perfect.
So I look up there and I don't even have time to range it. I mean, my CDS dial and my Leupold scopes, in that kind of stuff, I keep it at the lowest power. I've got a VX5 HD, and I had it at 3 power. Mm-hmm. I mean, why would you dial up to 15 power and that kind of stuff? and I keep my dial set on 100 yards there because I know I am. This shot, I think, was about 100, 110 yards.
It's about as far as you could have shot.
Right.
There's no way you could have shot
But
further.
it's kind of like gymnastic shooting. I have to get down on my knee, get my shoulder tucked down further to go under this limb. And there's about, 6-inch square opening in the limbs of those little scrubby spruce in front of him. And then he's got, there's like a diagonal downfall that's hiding his head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, my only shot is just the point of his right front shoulder. And I don't really even remember doing it. Other than I saw the sight picture, the crosshairs are there, and I hate offhand shots. I mean, if you cannot do an offhand shot, don't do an offhand shot. But you really don't have any choice in that situation.
Well, and we might have only had, another second. You know, you never know when he's just going to twirl and just bust out of there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I just squat down, lean, and boom, I shoot. And I'm sure in the footage, people are going to be like, Randy, you don't look very confident that you hit that thing. Because it felt good, but I didn't hear a smack. I didn't hear anything other than I hear the bull running off. But then I think we all agreed that we heard some crashing.
It was like 10 seconds after you shot, and it's just big crash.
Yeah.
So
I could hear his hooves, like, when they go down and they start kicking, I could hear hooves hitting rock. And I knew that wasn't him running. Yeah. And I'd heard him crash. And I was excited.
I turned the camera on you, and you came skipping down the hill with
I was literally jumping over that blow down and just running. Smile. And you're like, shh. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying
He's dead.
So a lot of things lined up perfectly for that opportunity because, we went up there and he went, 30 yards?
Yeah, or less.
He was, dead as disco laying there. And he's a nicer bull than I thought. He's a 6x6. I'm thinking he's a 3.5-year-old bull, but I don't know. Maybe
he's a nice bull.
No, he's a very nice bull.
Mm-hmm.
And
but especially considering that you were considering shooting a bull calf.
Right, earlier. So let's get Wade back into the picture here. So we had told Wade we'd meet him at the pond, and then one of you who had enough juice in your phone text Wade, or maybe I had like 5% left, and so I texted him and said, "Hey, we're not going to be there till dark. We're sitting here." So supposedly there's a bull bugling around here, is what I told him, and he texted back and said, "Go get him," or something like that. And so at that point, we texted Wade and said, "Hey." You texted him some
I completely messed the text
right, you said
up.
Randy's dead and so is his bull.
Something like that. Yeah. And then I shut my phone off.
Right. So Wade, I'm sure Wade is there thinking, well, do I call a medevac?
Yeah, there was like 3 texts after that. Hey, are you guys okay? What's going on?
So never let Ty text somebody because in his excitement, he will say something that doesn't make sense to whoever the recipient is, but so many things could have went wrong, and I think it's a great example of elk hunting where sometimes you got to be aggressive, sometimes you got to be patient, and do not screw with the wind.
Yeah,
that I think that's the lesson of that encounter.
The wind is the one thing that you cannot fool an elk on.
Right.
Absolutely cannot.
Especially when you're going into their bedding area. They know every tree, every limb, every deadfall. Mm-hmm. They live there. They bed there. They've been doing it for years. They know what the wind does at 2:00 and they know how it changes at 4:00. And if you think you're going to go in there with a bad wind and kill that bull, you're kidding yourself.
Josh likes to refer to it, my son-in-law, he likes to refer to it as Home Alone. Everything's booby-trapped.
That's a good way to put it.
That is a good way to put it.
Booby-trap everything.
I don't think there's any secret science to elk hunting, but this one was really about play the wind.
Yeah.
Don't discount. Don't think that somehow your hunting prowess is going to get you over the hump when you have that kind of win situation.
It's like the Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk, and know when to run.
Yeah, no doubt. And know when to trust your camera guys and know when they're joking. So after we get to the bull and we're kind of excited, high fives and everything. That's when these guys are like, see, we told you there was a bull there. And that's when I had to eat a little crow and say, all right, I'm glad I listened to you. But so that was probably the best practical joke anyone's going to play on me this season.
That is better than any practical joke I could have come up with.
I could just see the smugness on Marcus and Ty. Like, see, we told you, and trust us.
You were just playing the joke on yourself.
Yeah, that's the best part. That is the best part.
So funny.
Well, I know. I guess it was you guys pulled the joke on me at the low point of the hunt. Like when I'm like, okay, I should have brought beer and sold beer and coffee up here, as much traffic as there is.
Right.
And so at that point, when you guys told me you heard that bugle, I was, while I was laying there trying to fall asleep, my mind's going through, okay, what's going to be the story of how we came up here? We don't have any elk footage. We've run into a ton of people in a wilderness area. How are we going to make a story out of that? And then you guys come up with this idea that, hey, we hear this burrow-sounding elk up above you. And no matter how far we climb, he's 300 yards above us.
Yeah, it seemed that way.
Well, I think we were hearing a couple different bulls in hindsight, looking back on it.
I mean, that kind of perpetuated the prank. No matter if we went 400 yards, the bull's still 300 yards above us. We go another 400 yards, he's still 300 yards above us. And I've not heard anything to this point. So anyhow, it was a great time. And then we had to get that thing out of there. But fortunately, we shot him, what was it, 0.2 miles from the main crest of the ridge?
It was like 0.17 or something like that. Yeah, it was close to that. And then from that, it was basically perfect side hill across.
Yeah.
Pick your route through that blowdown, pretty nice trails. And then, hit that ridge back. That was money. But
for people, and occasionally on our YouTube channel and stuff, people ask what we shoot. And this, again, is my standard elk medicine. I have a 308 Howa Alpine mountain rifle. And as I said, it's got a Leupold VX5 on it. And I shoot 165 grain nozzler partitions out of that. And that elk, like every elk I've ever properly hit with my partitions, didn't go very far.
No, it's an exact same rifle I shot my elk with in Wyoming too.
Right.
Same thing.
Yeah, same rifle. I mean, we just, for our production, we have rifles that are set up a certain way, and Marcus used it in Wyoming. How far did your bull go? 30 yards, 40 yards?
Yeah, maybe 50 max, but yeah.
Double lung shot, and he's laying there, wheels up. And so what struck me is where that bull got hit, right on the point of the shoulder, that 165 grain partition, when we did the autopsy, I have never seen a front shoulder as crushed.
Oh, it was a mess.
It's unfortunate, but it was the only shot I had. But to me, I wanted to do the autopsy to see how far did this bullet go through the front shoulder? What damage did it do to the front shoulder? It obliterated every bone in its path. And then when you tried to get the heart out that night, the lungs were
just annihilated.
Liquid. Yeah.
It was just blood clots that poured out of the chest cavity.
So those of you,
luckily, it didn't kill the heart though. The heart was still
I know.
intact.
We went right above the heart, and part of that was shot angle because we were down below the elk, and I hit him low. When we got up there, I know you guys probably thought I was like some sort of teenager or something. I was all interested in where did I hit him? Where did I hit him? Because quite honestly, it was threading the needle, and I did not think I had the talent to thread the needle, and lucked out. Some divine spirit guided that bullet exactly where I was aiming, and that part always interests me to see what really happened. Did I hit where I wanted to? And then once the bullet hits, what happens when the bullet hits? Because you can learn so much from that, and kind of go to school on future shots about what you want to do. And so the next time one of those kind of pranksters out on YouTube want to tell me, because we have a video on YouTube about elk cartridges, and I'm a big advocate about, if you have any recoil sensitivity at all, drop back to a 308 or 270 or whatever, something that you can manage the recoil, and you'll go shoot a lot because you're not afraid of getting your teeth knocked out at the bench. And there's always the guys who are like, a 308 is just for sissies or something like that. Or, if you're going to really hunt elk, you need blah, 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 blah. So it's always gratifying when you do your job. The equipment always does its job. And this bull he's now going to be in a freezer.
Yep.
Gonna make a lot of good meals, and but we had to pack that thing that night. We only packed out the heart, the liver, the tenderloins,
backstraps,
and trim,
yeah,
and
burger stuff,
yeah. And then we went back the next day with Clayton and Wade, and we got the rest of it.
Yeah, we really lucked out in the timing of killing that bull, because
we really did.
Wade was about to leave with his llamas.
With his llamas, I know. Yeah, because he work forced him to have to be somewhere the following day. And Clayton had just showed up the night before, so now there were 5 of us plus 2 llamas to take all of our production gear, our camp, and this whole elk out.
Yeah, it worked perfect. Because, and then everybody on the way out was still really heavy.
Heavy. Heavy.
But just one trip instead of having to do that twice, which would have sucked.
Right. No, I was going to find a way, because the llamas could carry weight again, put them at 24 pounds per pannier, or 48 pounds each, which took quite a bit of the camp gear.
Yep.
But then with production gear, all the other stuff, hauling out our trash, everything else, and then the meat. My left knee this morning tells me I walked down a very steep slope for a very long time with a very heavy load. And I don't know how many more years I'll be able to do those kind of things, but I hope it's a long time. And that was kind of walking up on that bull. I try not to get super reflective, but as I get older, I do. It's natural, because I know that I'm probably never again going to hunt that wilderness area. I'm not going to live long enough to draw the tag, or my hunting career, if you want to call it a career, is not going to be long enough for me to again draw that tag, or a tag similar to that. So you get there and it's like, dang, this is it. This is the last time I'm going to do this. This place.
Last time you'll step foot here.
Yeah. And but that's life, And for me, it gives me cause to think about all the public land advocacy that I do, and that backcountry hunters and anglers does, and how important it is, because that right there epitomizes the story of everything that I want to see in my advocacy. There were hikers up there. There were turkey hunters, bear hunters, young people, old people, new hunters, experienced hunters. Without places like that, the things I love to do, well, even beyond when I'm too infirm to be able to do them, wouldn't be there.
Well, something that always chaps me is some people tend to say, oh, well, you make it wilderness and you lock me out.
Right.
And it's like you just said, there was a 12-year-old kid at the top of that mountain.
Right.
And there was a 60-year-old man up at the top of the mountain.
Right.
You know, and they were not locked out.
No.
They chose to put one foot in front of the other. And that wilderness, I mean, how many wilderness acres are in Arizona? I mean, I don't know the number, but there isn't a lot. 1%?
Right. At least
is that fair?
I don't know what the percentage. There's not a lot of alpine wilderness. Let's put it that way. I know there's some desert wilderness and other stuff, but alpine wilderness like that is very small. There's this. There might be some over in the White Mountain country that I'm not aware of, but
a very, very small percentage of
it's a small
wilderness in Arizona.
And the part that is also interesting is, let's face it, it can sustain a harvest of rifle bull elk hunting in the later part of the rut because it's backcountry area. The elk, this isn't like, okay, I saw an elk and he ran off. I know he's not going to go that way because there's a golf course over there or because there's a, whatever over there, some man-made feature. They can go any damn direction they want and you can't catch up to them.
They have the upper hand for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is one of the beauties of the backcountry areas is it can sustain more hunting pressure because the success rates are often going to be lower. The elk when that elk takes off through that blowdown burn, you are not catching that elk. No. You are joking yourself if you think you are. And I know that's not for everybody, and I get that. But to me, going into a backcountry area like that, whether it's just a roadless area, full-blown designated wilderness like this was, or a wilderness study or whatever, you're kind of saying, all right, I want to play the game on a different table, a different field here. I want to stack the odds more in the favor of the elk because, I don't know, the first two elk we saw, the first two bulls that day, we didn't have a prayer of getting any of those. Mm-hmm. No, if this was in a heavily roaded area, we could have said, let's run back to the truck. Let's drive around there. I know he's going this way. He's going to cross that spot. We'll get him. Nothing wrong with that. But these backcountry areas just allow you, think about Montana. Where else do you, in some of the places in Idaho, where we were in the backcountry of Wyoming, in the Wind River Range, these places, a lot of them open their rifle seasons in September. Mm-hmm. You could not sustain that kind of hunting during that vulnerable period in non-wilderness or highly roaded areas. You wouldn't have any elk left.
Right.
Or no bulls left.
Yeah. Those areas, they just allow for a more immersive experience. I mean, it's just incredible back in those places. It's totally different than hunting a place that has a road every mile it's a completely different experience.
Yeah. And I get why some people, because of maybe age or health or, physical impairment, I get why they are frustrated that they can't go have that experience. I get that. But when you look at the landscape, the other 90% of the landscape is roaded, is accessible to motorized travel, to whatever.
When you look at a map on a large scale, you realize how few of those places there really are.
OnX has that layer that you can look at roadless or wilderness areas, and there's not very much of it.
No.
And
so I get it. The flip side of that I often tell people is like where we're going to New Mexico next weekend. Mm-hmm. Again, we got another film permit in a wilderness area. And that forest there, they love to have us come. They're like, man, you've done 2 episodes here. Keep doing them. Show this wilderness experience. There are so many elk in that wilderness area where those burns are. Yeah. That it's just this big reservoir that the elk go in there and they're safe and they have sanctuary. But they have to eventually weather and the season that's in the wilderness area eventually pushes a lot of those elk out of there. And guess where they go? They go lower to where the roaded areas are. So this wilderness area, this backcountry spot, kind of acts as a reservoir where elk are overflowing allowing them to give way more tags in the non-wilderness area than they otherwise would have. Mm-hmm. And so I hope people can look at it to understand that that's one of the benefits is those areas adjacent to these backcountry and wilderness areas have better hunting because of it. It's almost like you ever go and hunt the fringe of a big private property that has all kinds of great big elk because there's no hunting allowed on that, or it's, exclusive
Very
high
limited.
dollar hunting.
Yeah.
Guess what? A lot of elk get killed on the periphery of that place.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same with some of these backcountry areas. So hopefully people can look at it in the bigger picture. I'm not saying that every piece of the elk world should be backcountry. For elk hunting opportunity, it's, maybe I wish that for my style of hunting, but I also want everybody to have the opportunity. And right now, I don't know what the percentage is across the West, but I would bet it's close to 90% of the landscape is open to motorized travel of some sort, either limited, seasonal, or partial. Do we have to, those who would want to advocate for motorizing the remaining 10%? No way.
Yeah.
No way.
It's like you said, you've had tons of opportunities up to this point, and there will come a day where you won't be able to access that on foot.
My knee tells me that day's a lot closer than I wish it would be.
But someday you're going to have grandkids, hopefully.
Right. Hopefully. Right. If Matthew, you hear that? Ty and Marcus have been hearing me bemoaning my lack of grandkids for the last week, but
you want your grandkids to have that opportunity and their kids, and on down the line. And if we continue to expand and road and use every piece of this earth, they're not going to experience this,
No.
Yeah. And it's bad enough as it is with all the electronics and bullcrap that goes on that to get them to that point.
And Marcus said it best, and that's really, it's hard to articulate and hard to explain, but there's a fulfillment, a level of quality to that experience that I can't get anywhere else. Mm-mm. I mean, I just, you have to go there and do it.
Yeah.
To understand it. It's like a lot of things in life. I can talk about it. I can show it on video, whatever. Until that person goes, puts a pack on and says, I'm going to live up there at that 10,000 foot elevation for 5 days and try killing elk. You really don't get that experience until you go do it.
Yeah. And it humbles you too. When you get up there, just like think about, we're up there for 5 days. Like those elk are up there 365 days a year, and they just make a living and survive up there, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it gives you an appreciation for just how resilient and how remarkably smart, adaptive,
and tough.
These critters are. And I don't know. It's you think about these backcountry areas. Usually the opportunity is greater, both in terms of number of tags. I mean, look how many tags they're given for that hunt, for rifle hunting, for that area. You could not give that amount of tags for that small of an area in other places. You wouldn't have any elk left on the landscape. So there's more opportunity. The age class is more diverse. And I don't care if people want to shoot a bull calf like Wade was trying to talk me into, or if they want to shoot the biggest bull on the mountain. That's all great, whatever you want to do. But these backcountry areas have that diversity of age class that is usually richer than what you see in the highly roaded areas. The only way you get great age class in highly roaded areas is huge restrictions and opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Limited entry draw, short seasons.
You're only going to get a tag every 10, 20 years maybe.
No way, man. I mean, we were up on the, so all three of us are from Montana. And we are so spoiled. And I always say that because I come to these places and I talk to residents of this state. Okay. The one guy we talked to, he'd had like 3 elk tags in 20 years or something.
Yeah.
And I mean,
and I think he was excited about that. He thought he was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those seasons on those elk tags are short. They're like 5-day, 10-day windows. And here in states like Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, we go down to the sporting goods store and buy our license, or down to the wildlife office, buy our license. We get month-long seasons. Oftentimes, you can use your bow for the first part of the season, and then you can come back with a rifle.
Yeah.
Not in these other states. It's you get to use a bow or a muzzleloader or a rifle, and your season's 5 days long. That's what this hunt was. We had a 5-day season.
Mm-hmm.
So we are so spoiled in some parts of the country.
But the cool part about that is folks from Arizona can drive up to Montana and do that. They can do the same thing. Right. And they can do that because there's public land up there, just like here,
Right.
They have just as much right to it as we do as residents of the state.
Right. Like sitting in camp the night we killed the bull, when we came back, we were talking to Clayton. He'd just come back from Wyoming. Mm-hmm. He's like, I can't believe you can hunt archery September 1st through the 30th, and then you can come back with a rifle.
Right.
He's like, no other place can you do that, or very few places can you do that. And to see the look on his face of how cool is that? And there's all this public land. He lives here in Arizona, and he has a ton of opportunity for different species here, coos, deer, and everything else. And there's great hunting here, but because of the population and because of everything else, they just can't have the level of opportunity that some of the other states have. And I'm just so thankful for that.
Well, for the vast part, Arizona is not your typical elk habitat.
It is not. It's remarkable how good their game and fish does to provide the amount of opportunity with this limited habitat base that they have. And not just opportunity, but a lot of quality. They've somehow solved that riddle of every year. It seems like they provide a little more opportunity and a little more opportunity. Like they have these November archery hunts here in Arizona.
Really?
Yeah. In some of their premier units. And the one guy, Matt, he said his daughter did one last year. She went and sat on a water hole, killed the bull the first night.
Yeah.
In November with a bow. We always think
they sat on it in the morning and she missed one.
Right.
And then they came back that evening and she killed one.
Right. And so I look at that and I'm like, in some states, if you suggested a November archery elk hunt, people would look at you like you've lost your mind. Arizona, they tried it. Guess what? Hunters figured out a way to be successful. Yeah, here water is such a scarce resource that you can use that to your advantage and get closer. But they're always coming up with new ideas, new ways to expand. And that's where, for me, and having to get the number of tags we do for the show, I've started looking at these limited opportunity hunts here in Arizona. I think most people read limited opportunity and they think, oh, well, the success rates are 4%. No, the success rates are very high on these hunts. And there's still some really quality bulls there. It's just relative to what the Arizona expectation is.
Yeah. Who was it that said like, oh, there's some decent bulls, or, there's a couple like 330, 340 bulls, like that was a small bull or something like.
Yeah,
that's very surprising. That sounds like a really big bull to me.
Yeah, right. You show me a 330 bull, I'm just tripping over myself to get in position for a shot. So I would just encourage people to come and investigate Arizona. It's with all the public land, with the great job their game and fish does. And maybe people who live here, I think no matter what state you live in, your game and fish department becomes the punching bag for all that's wrong.
Every state.
It's just, I think that's inherent to the nature of hunters. So some of the Arizona guys listening to this might be saying, our agency, blah, blah, blah. Well, I get to hunt across the West. I get to interact with a lot of agency people. And I'm very impressed with how Arizona provides the opportunity they do to residents and non-residents, because non-residents help fund a large part of their system, and yet still maintain some amazing quality also.
Yeah, it's always a balance, and they do a pretty good job of kind of having the gamut of opportunity.
Yeah,
because you can hunt every year for certain species. Like you're not going to be able to hunt elk every year,
right?
But there's a limited resource,
right?
You can go hunt coos deer, javelina,
right?
Quail,
right?
Mule deer,
yeah, all sorts of stuff.
Right. If you're an archery hunter, you can buy over-the-counter tags for a lot of the deer species here. So, but what did Clayton tell us he paid as a resident for his elk tag here?
$130
$30 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Boy, in some of our states, like Montana, can you imagine if you told people we raised our elk tag from what, $12 to $20?
Oh man, it's like somebody
I thought
lit their house on fire.
Yeah, I thought the Capitol was going to get burned down.
I gotta say, so I'm brand new to Montana and coming there from Oregon.
Yeah,
you pay $50 for your elk tag in Oregon, and it's like $25 for your deer tag, which in my mind's cheap.
Yeah,
came to Montana and it's like I can buy like 12 deer tags for whatever it is. $12, $18, or whatever the $10, whatever the hell they are, and the elk tag's $20. Are you kidding me?
I know.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
The non-resident definitely carries the financial burden in Montana.
Oh, for sure. But my point of bringing that up is those of us who live in states where fees are very, very low, and I think of three: Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. We as residents there. I wish every resident of those three states would travel to some other state and interact with a hunter from Arizona or Utah or Nevada or New Mexico or whatever to get a feel for just how good we have it.
Yep.
I mean, for the $130 that Clayton pays for his resident elk tag here, in Montana, I can buy the Sportsman's package with bear. So that includes my deer, my elk, my fishing, my upland bird.
Probably throw a turkey tag in there for still under the price.
Oh, right. And
two of them maybe.
Well, so I buy all of that. I buy my trapping license. I buy my state duck stamp, my state access stamp, my whatever else. And I'm still under the $130 that Clayton pays. Yeah. And I can, with that, I can hunt for, I don't know how many days a year that allows me to hunt and fish.
Mid-August through January, if you get the
rate. We're blessed, and I think across the West, and we're like this traveling road show, Marcus. What are we like? Day 59 is on the road for this year.
I think that's what you counted it up as.
Yeah, day 59, and we've got I think 50 to go or something like that. Something before it's all done, and that doesn't count my 20 to 25 days of nonprofit volunteerism and sponsor meetings and trade shows. But we're lucky that we have all this public land that we can go and do this stuff on.
It's pretty incredible that you're able to do that, get all those tags and be able to go to all those places. If you think about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and when we do this, it's not that we want we're not trying to tell people, oh, you should go and spend 100 days a year doing what we do, because we know that's not practical.
No.
The point of it is, if we can do this for 100 days a year across the Western landscape on public lands, anybody could go and find a 5-day window. So there's some opportunity out there somewhere on some public lands that you could go and do. And, some people listening are like, oh, well, I don't have $10,000. I don't have $8,000. No. Some of these are very, very inexpensive. Find the state that's closest to you. Pool in with a couple other hunters. Road trip it. Don't eat restaurant meals the whole way. Pack your meals. And I wrote an article on this. It was about how to hunt elk in Colorado for $1,000. And now that they raised their fee, maybe it's getting close to $1,500. But if you live somewhere in the East, you could road trip it. You and 2 or 3 other hunters. Take turns driving. Don't stay in motels. Don't eat fancy meals at restaurants. Split the gas cost. Your tag is, I don't know, what is it in Colorado now? $600 for a non-resident. You each person, if you did it split among 3 or 4 people, you could do it for under $1,500, no matter where you lived. And public land. So I'm like, okay, $1,500. That's $120 a month. $125 a month. In today's world, can a hunter who's serious about wanting to go elk hunting, can he find a way to save $125 a month for his annual elk hunt?
Probably.
Hopefully most can, but even if it's every other year.
If it's every other year,
can you find a way to save $65 a month towards your semi-annual or biannual elk hunt? I don't know.
Yeah. It's been 4 or 5 years ago, but I went to Alaska. My brother happens to live up there, and so we went grizzly bear hunting / sheep hunting, which is because he lived there. But you could go up there and caribou hunt, moose hunt, blacktail hunt, black bear. There's a gamut of things that you could hunt up there. But it cost me $2,500, and that was including a otter dropping us off on a river, 130 miles from nowhere.
Right.
And so we spent 8 days on that river. But I begged, borrowed, and stealed for 2 years.
Yeah.
To make that trip happen. And, it only cost me $2,500, which my wife thought was an awful lot of money to come home without anything. But
you had memories and experiences.
I had some amazing memories and experiences I never would have encountered anywhere, and some bonding time with my brother. But, I was able to just go up there and charter a plane to go drop us off somewhere on public land.
Right. And we've been doing this. We're filming our 10th season now. And that's been, when I built the business plan, the why for that business plan was to promote public land hunting, self-guided public land hunting, and create more advocates for that cause. And over 10 years, that why has never changed. And the idea isn't to again, not to get people to think, the goal is to find 10 hunts a year. It's to show the whole spectrum of what's there, whether it's antelope or mule deer or western whitetail or elk or whatever. There's probably some hunt on these public lands that anybody could somehow fit into their budget and their time schedule to go and do. The number of people who have contacted me this year and sent emails of pictures of their Wyoming pronghorn hunts. Is there anything more fun for a first-time Western hunt, especially if you have new hunters or younger hunters, than to take them to Wyoming and hunt pronghorn? Tons of public land. You're going to see a lot of animals. They taste remarkably great. And so to see that many people doing that, I just open those emails and smile, man. I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
Cool. How cool is this? And a lot of them are people who said, I had no idea that I could go and do this for, really cheap to go do a Wyoming pronghorn hunt.
Yeah.
And you can stack them up.
Right. You can get a bunch of doe tags.
Like 5 antelope total or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the number is, but by the time you get your buck tag and then you can apply for some doe tags, it's crazy.
And if you treat it right, it's good meat.
Really good.
Yeah.
Do you talk much about? I'm sure you do. You talk a lot about everything.
Is that a complaint?
It's a compliment. Actually,
okay.
Yeah.
You say I talk a lot. When you don't hear well, you just talk a
lot. Because you did when we were on the mountain, you did the boning out the bull, and so we videoed that and meat care, and when we were coming off the mountain. And I'm sure most listeners and hunters get this, but when we're coming off the mountain, we passed some non-hunters.
Right.
I don't think we passed any, nobody cringed when we walked by. Everybody was jacked. Well, of course, the llamas added to that. But
right.
Everybody was just curious of what we were doing because this army of guys come off the mountain.
With 2 llamas.
Packs, 2 llamas, I'm sure it was pretty impressive. But particularly one of the conversation that stuck out to my mind was the 2 ladies and the man that, actually once we got past, they saw your elk horns and antlers, sorry. And so they asked, are the llamas carrying the meat? And we're like, hell no, it's on our backs. And we'd like to get to the pickup. but they're like, so is the meat spoiling right now as we talk?
Yeah.
And so we got that opportunity to educate them that no, we hung it, we quartered the elk up, hung it in the tree overnight. It was cold and the wind blew on it, gave it that crust. As soon as you get that meat off the elk and it starts cooling down, when that meat's cold, it's money. and it'll last for days up there.
Yeah.
And so we got that opportunity to educate them on that.
Yeah, that was cool, just running into that many people.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it was a little frustrating too because we had a bunch of weight on our backs. But
by the end, Marcus and I were ready to tell people that the llamas bite. They're very aggressive. Don't get near them.
no, but it was very interesting because every reaction was positive.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I mean, they're obviously non-hunters. I mean, well, you know, maybe some of them were, but probably not. They seemed curious. They didn't know what was going on. And you guys were having that conversation with them, and it was very positive when you actually explained what we were doing, living out on the wilderness, getting food. I mean, they were.
You could see every one of them when you said, "Oh, we've got 200 pounds of meat in our packs here."
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "Whoa." And the one lady even said, "Man, that's so cool that you guys know where your food's coming from."
Mm-hmm.
You could tell she doesn't hunt.
Yeah.
But she's genuinely interested in, you guys really have 200 pounds of meat in your packs? Yeah. Feels like all 200 of it is in mine
here,
right now, but it's not. But no, I think those are very positive experiences when, and if you believe what I believe, that we are all ambassadors for hunting. If you can imagine walking down a trail on a holiday weekend,
Sunday,
with the colors in full bloom and the half of Phoenix up here enjoying the colors in the cooler weather, you are going to have encounters with people that don't have a context by which to understand what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am, I'm walking down with a rifle on my shoulder after some Fruit Loop in Vegas has just shot 58 people. And I'm thinking, what are people going to think when they see I'm carrying this rifle? In my mind, I'm going through that. So I'm very aware. I'm keeping my hand over the end of the muzzle and, you know, making sure nobody is freaked out that I got a rifle. And then how many people stopped us? Mostly, I think, because of the llamas, not because of any of us having good looks or anything like that. And then when you turn the discussion to food, conservation, the experience of 5 days sleeping up there at 10,000 feet in the backcountry, like you said, I think it was all genuine interest and intrigue. I didn't sense any negative response from
I didn't either.
No.
any of the people.
And we as hunters, like, that's our responsibility to take that opportunity to leave a positive impression upon the non-hunters, because the survival of hunting in the next 20 years depends on those people.
Right.
You know, and if we don't leave positive impressions on them, we're going to lose in the end. You know,
for sure.
It's like, I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you did on social media, you know, that PETA filter thing that everybody's posting pictures on. They were all jacked up about it and posting their kills on it. And though I thought it was humorous, I thought it was pretty funny, you know, in closed circles it is, but when you give them the ammo to fight against us, they're going to get it regardless. But when you hand deliver it, you know, with pink bow on it, we're not doing ourselves any favors, and we're not shedding a positive light on what we do.
No.
And I wish more of us would you know, figure that out and just take that opportunity to come down to their level or up to their level, wherever it is they are, you know, but just educate them on a positive note, and not just, because I know for me, it's about the food.
Right.
You know, I am not a big bull hunter or a big buck hunter or whatever. Like, I eat it, and it freaks me out every year to think that I don't get an elk because I can't. And that, you know, an elk lasts a year. I don't want to buy beef.
Right.
I absolutely do not want. And so it scares me. And so that opportunity, you know, those public lands and those people that are out there, they have just as much say as to what happens out there, if not more, because there's more of them.
Right.
More non-hunters than hunters. Their vote actually counts. I mean, all votes are equal, but being that there's more of them, we're outvoted. So if we don't leave that positive note and that positive light, one day we'll get outvoted.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, the culture behind just only thinking about antler size and all that it's not sustainable.
No.
You have to, I mean, and I think most people really do appreciate the meat. Most hunters are, you know, that is a big, you know, part of it, I hope.
Yeah. And Marcus is bashful, and I don't want to get him in trouble here, but observing your relationship with Kara, your wife, and how she is one of the most committed, ethical food hunters I've encountered in a long time. You can just sense it in talking to her. She had no interest in hunting at one point in time, I suspect.
No. She had no idea what it was all about.
Right.
But
and so the point of that is, I think often hunters approach it as though everybody is against me.
Mm-hmm.
And as quick as you approach it, that person, if you make the assumption they're against you and what you do and how you acquire your food, you almost put yourself in an indefensible position from the beginning. And I assume everybody's got an open mind. And I know that that's not always the case. And those that don't have an open mind, you know what? It's like, hey, good luck, have a great day. And you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
But like that group that you mentioned, the two women and the guy, those people had a completely open mind about things. It was absolute interest and intrigue about what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when the conversation went to food, it was almost like she was wishing we could break out a stove there and let her try some.
Yeah.
Yep.
She wanted to know more.
Right.
You could tell.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Which was cool.
No, the story behind the food aspect and then just immersing yourself into a wild place like no other.
Right.
I mean, compared to hunting, I've never experienced that immersive of a feeling because you're paying way more attention to what's going on with wildlife and the tracks and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't get that from anything else. And those stories, when we tell them, are just, that is going to shine a much brighter, positive light on the non-hunter than talking about, oh, I killed a 350-inch bull. Here's it sitting on my tailgate. You know, just that doesn't do us anything. That doesn't do any good for the non-hunting perception of hunters.
Not at all. And I'm sure people listening saying, well, F them. You know, they're taking the Ted Nugent approach of screw the rest of the world. I'm going to do what I want. This is my right.
And I don't care what people think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But at the end of the day, you're shooting yourself in the foot or the kneecap.
Or in the head.
Or in the head.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're all ambassadors, whether we want to be or not. Mm-hmm. As long as you have some sort of social media outlet and you're sharing your experiences. And I don't want to go overboard with it. I mean, the kill is part of the experience of the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can provide context to it about the food, about the immersive experience Marcus is mentioning of being part of the natural world, being part of this natural process that has been going on since man has been on this planet, people are like, oh, yeah, okay, I get that. Like the one lady was almost, gee, I wish I knew where my food came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an honest experience you're having with your food.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever try to make a detour around that. I just tell them, this is how I get food. This, something dies so we can live. And I want to have that honest relationship and take responsibility for it. And that's what ties me to these lands and to the conservation and the future of these animals more than any other experience that I know of. If you can find another experience that will tie me to the natural world in a better way, make me more vested in the future of wildlife and the future of landscape conservation, tell me what it is, because I'm going to be there. And if you're honest about it, I think people will appreciate it way more. I don't know. That's been my experience of it anyhow.
Agreed. And I appreciate your efforts as well.
For sure.
Do many other people.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that people say that. And my wife, she manages all my emails and private messages and stuff. So if you guys got a corny joke, don't send it to my email
or my dirty joke
or my Facebook messages. Well, I don't even check Facebook messages anymore. I can't. I get too many of them.
Yeah.
So, and I keep saying that on the podcast so that people will hopefully quit sending them, because I know they're getting frustrated, but I can't do them all. But one of the things that gives my wife the greatest satisfaction of what we do is when she reads one of the emails where someone says, thanks for your advocacy. Thanks for taken the time to do this because my wife and I are blessed to be in a position that we can do this financially, with our time, with our relationship. She's as committed to it as I am. Her name is Kim, so if you want to send her a thank you note, it's kim@onyourownadventures.com. And now she's going to kill me for giving her email address. But I think that means more to her than anything, is when people thank us for, and I don't mean this like we're saving the world or anything. We're just doing what our little part is that we're blessed to have the opportunity to do. Go out and be advocates for this and raise a little hell along the way to those who are trying to take it away from us, and hopefully tell a story. And she gets such fulfillment out of reading those emails. I can't even, like, when I get home in a couple of weeks, she'll have them all saved, usually in one folder of, oh, you got to read these. And so that I think that makes it more tolerable for her to have to shovel the snow when I'm gone, deal with the broken water pipe, deal with, the multitude of things that she has to deal with.
Well, it sounds like that she'd be dealing with that whether you were home or not.
Well, that's probably true, Ty, because Ty's listened to my podcast about how even if you are handy, don't act like you're handy. So I always call somebody in the yellow pages. But before we sign off, the end product of this hunt, we're going to have a whole bunch of YouTube content. We're going to have a bunch of day-by-day YouTube story. We're going to have our normal, I guess you'd call it TV-style episode, which is for sure going to be on Amazon Prime. So if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can watch our episodes for free on Amazon Prime right now. And the number of people who are doing that, it's off the charts.
Really?
Yeah. Because if you go out to, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, and I think it's called Amazon Direct Video, and you type in hunting, hardly anything shows up. And since we've been on there, whatever their algorithm is, because we're getting so many views and positive comments, we're like the first thing that shows up.
Right on.
So if people want to watch our stuff, go to Amazon Prime if you have that, or log in as your Amazon Prime account and go to the video tab and type in Fresh Tracks or Randy Newberg and it'll come up. So we'll end up with a piece there. And we're trying to come up with an agreement with the network to be on TV for next year. Whether or not we will, I don't know. We're there right now, at least through December. You can watch us on Sunday nights on Sportsman Channel. So there'll be all those deliverables. And then we're trying to do a film. Marcus is wrapping up his master's in film. And so this is going to be our first stab at a quote unquote film, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Hopefully, if it turns out.
Yeah.
As long as that bull's in focus.
We won't be glorifying the kill shot, that's for sure. But, I don't think we need to.
Right. So if the question would become, if we feel it's a worthwhile film, what are we going to do with that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you talking specifically with this hunt?
This hunt.
Right?
This hunt.
Right. All the whole experience that it's been, because it's ups. It's
a hunt.
It's so classic of an elk hunt.
Mm-hmm.
The highs, the lows, the despair of, man, we had big dreams when we showed up, all this enthusiasm, and then the reality of, guess what, buddy? If you fill a tag, you're going to be lucky. And then to pull it off.
Right.
So and then the connection to the backcountry experience, the public lands, running into all these other users out there. It's probably as rich of a public land elk hunting story as I can think of, if Marcus can put it into a film.
It's the goal.
And so is there thoughts about like including other users on our public lands and
somehow, I don't know how we do that, whether it's a little montage at the end or what we do, but for me, I think hunters shy away from telling their story.
Mm-hmm.
So Marcus and I were talking about this up on the mountain about how this story is going to unfold, and I think it's just going to open with me being honest of, you know what, this is my story. This is a story about public lands. It's my story through the eyes of a hunter. And I understand not everyone's going to agree with it, and some are going to struggle to understand it because they don't see the world through the lens that a hunter sees it. But I hope that when you see it, you'll understand why this experience connects me to these lands and these animals in a way like no other. And whether you agree with me or not, whether you support what I do and how I acquire my food, you can bank on the fact that I'm going to be there when these public lands and these animals need my help. And that's kind of the open, and then we tell the story, and hopefully that's the story that people walk away with.
Yeah.
So
I think one thing that a lot of us leave out in the video aspect or the movie aspect, and just as guilty in the products that I've put out, in the past, is that we never talk about the food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talk about it. We never show it.
Right.
We never, at New Year's dinner, Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, there's always wild game, and there's family. There's, all of family comes together and we eat this. And for me, that's what it's about, and I think a lot of us, like you were saying earlier, Marcus, a lot of us, that's what it's about, like that food and that family. And I think sharing that story with the non-hunter, showing them, how things come together and what we do with it. And like you just said, not glorifying the kill part of it. It's part of it, but making them realize why we do it. I think they'll appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah.
No, so if there's an opportunity to work that in there.
There will be. I mean, that's why Marcus went through great pains to film the whole quartering and boning and hanging it and packing it out. And so it's an effort to try tell a complicated story. I mean, let's face it, telling a story in today's world, we are the minority who are connected to the natural world the way we are of going and acquiring our own food. So the other 90 or 95% of Americans really don't have the context by which to understand that. So how do you tell that story in the proper context and do it in a way where people can walk away and say, oh, I get it. Or maybe if they don't get it, at least, well, I appreciate that they're concerned about the land and the animals because that's where they get their food.
Right.
You ever seen a farmer neglect his fields? Not for very long. I keep thinking that someday I need to sell T-shirts about it. There's a T-shirt that says, "Who's your farmer?" Cross that out, and then underneath it say "Hunter." Who's your hunter?
Right.
I know I'd probably get beat up in a parking lot, but that's kind of going to be that's the goal for what the end products of this hunt and this experience are.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to be a part of it, and hopefully I pushed record most of the time.
That's what I'm hoping too. I know I hit it quite a few times, judging by the amount of memory we chewed up on memory cards.
Yeah, we burned through some cards, so hopefully there's some quality in there.
So, but we can't wrap it up without the final Q&A that Ty came up with before we left the mountain. It's kind of funny he did this. I was embarrassed because I wasn't sure we have the footage, so I will control what happened. But the number of people who, over the course of doing this, people will pull you aside and it's like, I get the backcountry hunting thing, but how do you go to the bathroom in the woods? They kind of whisper it, like they don't want to, Yeah. And I get it. In our society, we treat, they go and poop as some unnatural experience or something. And if you follow...
Everybody poops.
It
just happens.
If you follow llamas up and down a trail, you will realize that that's a very natural experience for a llama. It's kind of like Hansel and Gretel. There's instead of breadcrumbs, it's like the trail llama poop up and down the trail. But so there's a book out there, How to Poop in the Woods. So Ty comes up to me and he's like, we got to do one final Q&A session.
Well, I just finished my second time daily.
And I know some people are going to be like, Randy, why do you got to talk about this in a podcast? And we don't have to talk about it, but obviously the number of people who kind of privately
are scared to talk about it.
Are scared to talk about it or say that that's somehow one of the maybe multiple or one of the factors that keep them from going and doing backcountry experiences. It's like, I don't think you can hold it for 5 days. If you can, good on you, but you're not going to feel very good after that.
No.
So I would suggest people go buy that if they're worried about it. And do you think we should do a YouTube clip of how to poop in the woods?
I think we should. I think we did. I think we already filmed it.
Well, we filmed talking about it. Right. We didn't film actually
getting some B-roll.
Right.
This is strictly an interview session, folks. There is no B-roll.
Is it a seated interview or
no, this is nothing that. But I just wonder. And maybe viewers or listeners will tell us. I think most of our listeners, maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of them are pretty serious backcountry people. I've been hanging out in the woods since I was 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that you got to go to the bathroom out in the woods creates some sort of hurdle. It's foreign to me that people have that as one of their hurdles. Again, back to I have to put myself in the shoes of someone who hasn't grown up doing this all their life. And maybe there's a lot of people trying to come to hunting or coming to, I don't care if it's hunting or hiking the backcountry or whatever. Well, maybe that is a problem.
Well, there's a few things involved with it, right? But I think the one that we all came to the conclusion of, and you brought up, is dig a freaking hole.
Yes, bury it.
I don't care if it's with your boot or your foot or a stick or whatever, but dig a hole.
Pull a dead stump out of the ground, whatever.
Yeah, it's surprising how many people that I've run into that don't realize that you're supposed to do that. And it seems like common sense, but I guess it's not.
It doesn't have to be 2 feet deep.
No, just cover it up and then. Well, I think Bo put it. We were talking about this in Wyoming too, and Bo was saying it's like buried enough that you could step on it.
Right.
And that's the
and not get it on your boot.
Yeah, and that's the right amount.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so I don't know if you're listening to this and you think that's a worthwhile YouTube clip, let us know. Because I'm not going to endanger my platform and its credibility by putting that clip up there without a vote of confidence from the listeners and viewers that, Randy, that'd be helpful for the backcountry or for the hunting world.
It's something that everyone does, like Ty said.
Everybody's just afraid to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and there's different methods. I mean, Ty was talking about there's different tactics that you can take when you're going out there.
For sure.
And then that's a worthy conversation as well.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I guess I just take it for granted that that's what you do. You don't have to tell the world, hey, I got to poop. Hey, call on me. I got to poop. I just can't.
Something that seems so obvious to you and I
is
not obvious to everybody. And if we teach them how to do it correctly, then the woods will be a better place.
That's true. No, if back to your point, if someone just lays it on the ground and walks away from it, when I encounter that, I wish I could find this person. I'd push them down and
rub their nose in it.
Rub their nose in it,
It's like, come on.
I don't want to look at your poop.
Yeah. I don't want to smell it. I don't have to worry about stepping on it. It's just...
Does anybody want to see that when they're walking around? That's why it seems like it's common sense. It's like, would you enjoy seeing that when you're walking down the trail? Like, no. I don't think anybody enjoys seeing that.
Yeah. So I don't know why I felt compelled to ask for a survey of viewers of should we do a YouTube video pooping in the woods?
I totally think it's noteworthy.
Really?
I totally do.
Are you saying that if we produce the video that BHA will put it on their website?
Oh, I'll bet we'd put it on our social media.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure. Hey, it's public lands advocacy.
Well, it is in a lot
clean
of respects.
Public lands.
I mean, it's interesting.
But you got to talk about different methods too. I mean, you got to talk about. I mean, there's a couple of different types of.
We'll let people take care of that. That's a personal decision. We don't need to get into squatting or log or all the other questions you asked the other day. But I guess if we do put that video up, we'll cover all those variations of pooping in the woods. But man, we ended a great podcast with a shitty way.
It was a shitty topic.
Why did we do that? Well, Ty, we really appreciate you joining us. Marcus and I got to load up the rig in about an hour. We got to go get some new tires on the cargo trailer. We got to drop head off for a Euro mount at a taxidermist because, and people who do this, you got to remember, a lot of states have now passed laws that you can't take full heads across state lines. So here I am in Arizona. I'm going to go to a taxidermist and get a Euro mount of this because I got to get rid of, you can't have anything that has brain matter or spinal tissue. And now some states are even saying any meat attached to it.
Yeah, it was kind of, I got an email from Arizona Game and Fish that I think said that you can't even have meat on the upper canines, the ivories. Right. You even got to clean all of that off to transport it across state lines.
Right. And this is all because of chronic wasting disease concerns. So we got a long day ahead of us, and then we head to New Mexico for a couple hunts.
Yep.
And then we'll be back in Montana about 10, 11 days from now. I'm going to need a pint of blood. Or another Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
I talked this. So Tom Wagner. All right, Tom, you live in Gilbert. He's here in Arizona. He's up doing I think it's called Hunts for Heroes or something. It's like one of the Wounded Warrior kind of hunts. He's up here somewhere in the woods. He drives by my truck parked at the trailhead, and he tapes a Dairy Queen gift card underneath the trailer tongue. And he sends me a text. Mm-hmm. Hey, go and look at this spot in your trailer when you get to the trailhead. So when I got enough power on my phone, when we got to the trailhead yesterday on our way out, I get that text and I go and look and there's a Dairy Queen card. Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Tom was a sweepstakes winner of ours a couple of years ago. And so we come into town, Ty says he's craving a greasy cheeseburger.
Oh,
so
yes.
What was that joint we went to? Bun Huggers?
Bun Hugger.
And little plug for a local burger joint here in Flagstaff. And across the street's the Dairy Queen. And I told Ty, no, I'm just tired. I want to get back to the room.
He was teasing me.
But...
And the whole time I'm like, if he drives by the Dairy Queen, I'm going to Uber back.
Or he's going to call me out as a fake. So we had Dairy Queen last night.
Yeah.
What a fitting way to end an elk hunt, huh?
Right?
A nice bull elk, all this meat, great friends like Wade and Clayton, and then go get a greasy burger and a Dairy Queen.
Yep. I think it's much better than that.
If it gets better than that, let me know where and how.
I do have 3 Bud Lights in my fridge here in the hotel room.
I don't drink beer.
That probably tops it off a little bit.
All right.
Icing on the cake.
See, I can't drink, so that means nothing to me. But, well, folks, before this goes down the crapper any further, we're going to sign off. Thank you all for listening. I hope you'll follow us on our Amazon account, watch us on Sportsman's Channel. Go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We've already, let's see, on our YouTube channel, what have we put up there as day-by-day hunts? We put the Nevada deer hunt from just August of this year.
Yep.
We put the sweepstakes hunt with the OnX Maps folks. We took Karen to New Mexico. That one's up there. Then these are day-by-day. So you get to see the behind the scenes. It's not, we don't do any reenactment, nothing. It's just, all right, well, how can we make 10, 15 minutes of something that shows people what's going on behind the scenes that day? And so it's day 1, day 2, blah, blah, blah. I think today is day 4 of Mike Spitzer's Nevada antelope hunt. And then the Wyoming elk hunt will start going up after that.
Yep.
Won't it? Yeah.
I think so.
And then after that will be Jim's Wyoming pronghorn hunt with his Hockett 58 caliber custom Hockett rifle.
Right on.
Where he shoots a Boone and Crockett antelope in a stock that is off the charts. That's
cool.
It's the coolest stock I think that's ever been on our TV show.
Yeah, Michael's been hammering those out, editing them.
Yeah. We left Michael at home for this trip because he's our editing guy. And so he's getting all these day-to-day pieces ready to go. So if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, I hope you will do that. The finished, polished, kind of final, traditional half-hour-long episodes, those will get edited out this winter because a lot of people say, look, I don't have time to watch 15 or 20 minutes every day. give me a 30-minute condensed version. So we're going to be doing that also. Man, we got a lot of plans ahead of us, Marcus. Hope you can duplicate or triplicate yourself, because I'm about as useless as it gets when it comes to the remainder of this stuff. Some people would say I'm pretty useless at this part of it also, but
you're the brains behind the outfit. That's what matters.
Boy, we're going down. We'll be like dead as a carp in a Clorox pool if I'm the brains behind this operation. So
you're so humble.
No, I'm just stupid. Don't confuse humility with ignorance.
No.
Sometimes I'm just too ignorant to know any better. But anyhow, folks,
if you can I caveat?
You can do whatever you want, Ty. You've got 30 seconds.
All right. If you my 30-second plug, if you're remotely interested in your public lands and public land hunting or fishing, look up Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Join, get involved. We have a chapter in darn near every state, with a goal to have a chapter in every state in the next 5 years. But we're your public lands and waters advocate, and look us up, join, get involved, and help us out.
Yeah, do it. Support them.
And if you're really froggy and want to see something really awesome, come to the Rendezvous in Boise, April 12th, 13th, and 14th, something like that.
April 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Yep.
So you guys are asking me, Randy, the CPA, to be in Boise April 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Yes, sir.
Right before tax deadline.
You know what April 15th
is? I'm sure there's a turkey season or something going on.
I think that's what
Spring
it is.
bear.
All right. Everybody, anyone whose stuff isn't to our office by March 15th, I'll just put them on extension and say, I'm sorry, I got to be in Boise before that.
Perfect. Well, we're hoping, really, really keeping fingers crossed that you want to debut this hunt there.
Well, I don't know. It depends on how well it turns out. That's up to Marcus.
Yeah, I better get going.
Yeah.
Get to cranking, boy.
Yeah. Because think about what crappy talent he's got to work with.
I know.
And
video footage he has to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got good stuff.
Yeah, and all we have is on camera number 2 is some guy who's got an adult elk hunter's version of a fidget spinner. we have not downloaded Ty's footage from this hunt, and it's going to be curious. It's probably just going to be the camera in random shots of treetops and skylines and the dirt below his feet, but you'll hear a lot of bugling.
There's definitely some of that after you shot that bull.
Oh, gosh. Well, folks, we could continue, but we've taken enough of your time. Can't thank you enough for listening. Have a great hunting season, and thanks for listening. 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 For listening.